in our communities.
COSATU says it will continue supporting 60-year-old nurse Jane Dialy throughout the court proceedings and wants the matter to reach its conclusion. The man is accused of rape, assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm and malicious damage to property. The case has been postponed to the 18th of September. Tanzania's Vice President Emmanuel John Jimbi has resigned less than a year into the job. President Samia Suluhu Hassan has accepted his resignation with no reason given. Jimbi will leave office on September 4th after serving since last November. His resignation follows criticism over comments backing a new constitution. Hassan won last year's presidential election with nearly 98% of the vote amid deadly unrest. Recapping the top story, Congress of Traditional Leaders President Kgoshi Mathupha Mokoena has urged traditional leaders to facilitate democracy in their areas by establishing a level playing field for all those contesting the upcoming local government elections. I'm Wandela Mbana for SAfm News Headlines at 3:30.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Parliament calls for SAFA election postponement. Sterling charged with dangerous driving after crash, and England bid to banish booze wars as Pakistan seek self-respect. More details at 3:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAfm. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Indeed, it is the National Pulse. Indeed, there is much to reflect on. And you know, whereas we talk about the politics of the day, we also look at leadership. And I've just been looking at a wonderful quote, because it's so thought-provoking, from Lincoln Marley. You may know him as a businessman who's the CEO of Lesaka Technologies. And Lincoln, what he said today, well, he said it a long time ago, but I just saw this again today. He says, if you feel that serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. If you feel that serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. I just wonder how we can internalize that to ourselves and then use that as a yardstick of leadership in our country, across political structures, but also NGOs, civil society, business as well, and the various collaborations that take place to an end. Okay. Well, my name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. Thanks for engaging me. You can call in live, so I'll give you that number, 086 000 2032. What is it you want to get off your chest? Lots of people I know want to talk about the Madlanga Commission. There's lots of things happening there. You can WhatsApp to 0614 104 107, text or voice note. You have the options. You have the option to tweet. Hashtag the National Pulse. When you do that, tag SAfmRadio and tag me. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about the Speaker of the National Assembly, Toko Didiza, because she is facing a motion of no confidence, and it's coming from the EFF. Let's talk about it next.
The next great story, the next unforgettable goal, the next breathtaking destination, the next blockbuster movie. They're closer than you think. With SABC Plus, the very best of S3 is only one click away. Stream live or catch up wherever life takes you on your smart TV, smartphone, tablet or laptop. Register for free today. Data costs apply. SABC Plus, because S3 is never too far away. S3.
Move with purpose from the first to the final job in a Hino 700 truck tractor. Available in either 410 or 450 horsepower. It gives you the flexibility to choose the right amount of power to suit your unique fleet and logistical needs. The Hino 700 truck tractor comes with a 6-year drivetrain warranty and 6-year service plan from as little as 1.9 million rand excluding VAT. Contact your nearest Hino dealer today to keep you moving. Offer available while stocks last. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Cape Verde gained independence in 1975. A small nation that built stability through resilience and connection. Tourism, services, and remittances power the economy, one of West Africa's strongest democracies. But challenges remain: drought, limited natural resources, and economic dependence on imports. Still, Cape Verde continues to shine through creativity.
It was not a racial war at all. It was the black students against the system.
This is what we are becoming. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Well, I mean, what is moving the national pulse for you today? What's getting the pulse rate working, both for you personally and for the entire nation? Well, what about this? The National Assembly Speaker, Toko Didiza, facing a motion of no confidence as the leader of Parliament. She's been accused by the EFF of not being impartial or acting in Parliament's best interest in the way she's handled legal matters related to President Ramaphosa's impeachment inquiry. So let's understand what's at play here. With me is Dr. Shadi Makwanwe, the senior lecturer at the Wits School of Law. Good to connect with you once again on the National Pulse. Hi.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Ryan. So, first of all, an interesting point about, from a legal perspective, when a speaker faces a motion of no confidence, what brings it on? What happens next?
So I think it's the emotion of no confidence. I don't want to call it a political move, but most of the time when you see emotion of no confidence, it stems from a political move where members of parliament are trying to either remove someone from an opposition party because they are of the view that they are not fit enough to hold the office that they are in, right? So I think that is why we've seen a lot of them during the Zuma years. That's what I like to call it. So in this instance, what this motion of no, where it comes from is, remember when the Phala Phala saga came out through that constitutional court order, right? And the speaker chose, when the president applied for an interdict to halt the work of parliament, she chose to file a notice to abide despite having a legal opinion that said that she had to oppose. And that is where the criticism of the EFF basically comes from, to say that she's not fit enough to hold the office of the speaker because she may be partisan or she may be biased. So that is basically what stems from the current motion of no confidence. So, but I think it's important to note that there's no rule that I'm aware of from the National Assembly rules or the Constitution or Section 52 of the Constitution that says that the Speaker must automatically oppose every court application concerning Parliament, or that she is bound to adopt a litigation position every time that is taken by a parliamentary committee every time. And I think in this case, the impeachment committee decided to oppose the president's application and the Speaker chose to abide. Legally speaking, she did nothing wrong. She had options and she chose to file a notice to abide. So those were one of the legal options that she had.
Okay, so if she's done nothing wrong legally, then what are the grounds to bring up a motion of no confidence?
So a motion of no confidence just requires a majority vote, right? So what happened in this instance is that the EFF filed the motion and they put up grounds as to why they think that the speaker is not fit enough to hold office. One of them was that decision that she filed a notice to abide instead of opposing, like the chair of the impeachment committee had said. And this is because if you look at the National Assembly rules, the speaker as the head of the National Assembly is normally the one who litigates on behalf of Parliament. There's no rule that says chairs of committees can litigate in their own capacity. That is why you see most of the time in court cases, it's a party versus the speaker or the speaker versus someone. That is because the speaker is the head of the National Assembly and committees are branches of the National Assembly. But this precedent was set where chairs can actually oppose or they can litigate in their capacity. It was set during the former public protector's impeachment process. So the reason why what the EFF basically has done today is to say the speaker is not fit enough because she's partisan and she could be biased. So for that reason, because she didn't want to oppose in her capacity as chair, she's not fit enough. And for that reason, they only require a majority. They don't need to prove anything else, but they only need other parties to vote with them to remove the speaker.
Okay, so like you said, it's not a conviction. It's very much an opinion, and you drum up support, you lobby, like how kids in a school grounds would lobby against each other. But you're saying in terms of the rules, that they get a majority. So it's a majority 50 plus 1, right? 50 plus 1 would
Exactly.
get them to shift. Okay, so we do know that for that to happen, the ANC, the EFF in this case, would have to have some big numbers, and I mean, two parties come to mind immediately. They would either have to get the DA support or the ANC support. Do I take it that therefore that's not going to happen, and therefore one can write it off as nothing more than a ceremonial gesture here?
Most probably, because I think the GNU has basically put our parliament into a different kind of dynamic, right? So we all know that the ANC is probably not going to vote in favor of the EFF. Therefore, that majority is probably going to be very challenging. And we have seen the DA basically saying that they were not happy with the fact that a legal opinion was given to the speaker and she didn't oppose that interdict. But I don't think that they could vote in favor of the EFF. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how those votes go. But remember, we have that UDM versus Speaker President versus Speaker precedent that basically allows for secret ballots. So maybe if it's a secret ballot, we could see a different kind of vote where we can't see how Parliament is voted. But if it's an open ballot, I think it creates a challenge in terms of those who want to toe the party line and those who don't want to toe the party line in that sense. But I think, the EFF may probably not be successful in getting that majority because that is what they require.
Okay, I mean, as you've just said, confirmation that the DA, they've released a statement, notwithstanding their own thoughts, they've confirmed that they will vote against the motion. So your point about partisanship comes to play immediately. That means they very rarely will cross against what has been agreed upon nationally. I mean, it brings me to another thing. In terms of the motion, then does the EFF have to actually prove anything before that motion is actually tabled and voted on?
They don't have to prove anything. They just need to bring grounds. And the grounds here was that the speaker may be partisan and biased. And that's all they had to do. So it was debated upon, and then this is the next step, to vote whether to remove the speaker or not. A motion of no confidence holds a much less threshold than removing someone in terms of Section 89, for example. So if you look at a motion of no confidence, it just requires a majority. And in most instances, they don't need to prove much, which is why they basically said the speaker should have opposed, as the legal opinion said, and for that reason we think that she's biased or that she's partisan, and for that reason we don't think that she's fit enough to hold office. That is all they had to basically put before Parliament, and then it comes, the next step would be to vote on whether to remove the speaker or not. They just require a majority, and I think that is the easiest way to remove someone from office when it comes to Parliament.
Just the last thing on this then, how much of this is a case of the EFF testing itself? I mean, it's testing to see how much support they actually have on other issues, in keeping in account that it's unlikely they're going to get to 50% plus 1, but they're testing to see who are their allies. Or is it a case of, in fact, they know who they are anyway?
I don't think they're trying to test whether they have allies in Parliament. I think they are trying to show that they still maintain accountability. And remember, it's election time. So it could be one of those instances where they want to show the public that they have the public's interest at heart. And if they're of the view that the speaker is not fit enough to hold office, then they have done something, irrespective of the fact that they didn't have the majority and they did try to hold the speaker to account. It could be that, but I don't think that they are testing whether they have allies or not in Parliament.
Okay, just the last thing. I mean, from a speaker's point of view, so she survives the vote, right? What does this do to her confidence anyway?
If she survives, I think politically the vote would basically mean that Parliament has confidence in the speaker. But I think we should distinguish from saying that Parliament has endorsed every decision that she has made, because look at what the DA had said earlier, that they were not necessarily happy with every decision she made during the interdict proceedings, right? So I think we've seen that parties supporting her removal have criticized aspects of her conduct. So what the vote would tell us if she survives is that there was not sufficient support in the National Assembly to remove her from office. So institutionally, she would remain as the speaker and parliamentary processes under her office would continue. But I think it would basically open. I think once you go through one motion of no confidence, it opens the door for the next one and the next one, as we've seen with previous speakers.
And we could see a whole range of them. Well, let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time, Dr. Shadi Makhanwe, the Senior Lecturer at the Wits School of Law. Thanks for engaging us on this issue of a motion of no confidence against the Speaker, Nochal. Thanks for your time.
Some crimes don't just make headlines, they change a nation. Now S3 takes you inside South Africa's most disturbing criminal investigations. From serial killers to kidnappings to cases that stunned the country. The South African serial uncovers the evidence, follows the investigations, and reveals how justice was ultimately served. Featuring renowned criminal profiler Professor Gerard Labuskaghni and the team behind Profiler Africa, every episode brings meticulous research and compelling storytelling to the crimes that shaped modern South Africa. The South African Serial, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Stream it live on SABC+. S3, open up.
Smart business moves save money. Switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Here's Stephen from the Villa Rosa.
I was with my previous insurer for 8 years and then I switched to OUTsurance Business Insurance. I'm very happy with the premiums and switching was the best decision we ever made.
Get a quote to switch and save today. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0800 60,000. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
For 90 years, South Africa has changed. Governments have changed. Generations have changed. Technology has changed. But through it all, one thing has remained: the conversation. From the voices of yesterday,
the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo is not improving.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of the JSB House. I'm Michelle Constant.
If a union treasurer is popular, then there must be something wrong with the finances. You are extremely popular this morning, Minister Manuel. Is there something wrong with our finances?
It's a very good evening, or rather afternoon, to you, Mzansi. Welcome to Otherwise on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. My name is Charlotte Pala.
So, you know how important social grants are, right? And it turns out that there's a big study that's been done. The University of Johannesburg's been looking at it.
To the voices shaping tomorrow. This August, SAFM celebrates 90 years of conversation. A nation's story, our shared future. SAFM turns 90 from 1 August. SAFM, the conversation continues. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse. On the National Pulse.
Right, what about your reaction? I'd like to get your thoughts. So react. What do you make of the move from the EFF to pass, a motion, to facing a motion of no confidence, in this case here against the Speaker, Toko Didiza? What do you make of the whole process and the why? Are the reasons justified at all or not? Doesn't have to be proven, but just an opinion. Having said that, what do you make of that? Right, let's get to the Madlanga Commission today. So today, evidence leaders at the Commission shifted their focus to a new topic at the testimony of Kat Matlala entering this day 4. Matlala, as you know, has been filling questions about his links to controversial figures in the taxi industry, right, and more. He's been pushed to shed light on his relationship with the elusive businessman Hangwani Maumela. We touched on that yesterday. Now, during his testimony yesterday, Matlala was questioned about his relationship with taxi bosses Jotham Msibi and Steve Motsumi, as well as Maumela. Now, Matlala then drew a direct link between Maumela and Msibi, claiming to have introduced Msibi, who considered himself as a son to Maumela. Are you all very confused? I can understand that. Anyway, let's get to some of the key moments we picked up in terms of sound. First of all, Matlala, the cat, says he got to know General Lesetja Senona through the late taxi boss Jotham Msibi. Listen to what he said.
Yes, it was in the wedding, but the date I don't remember, but it was before 2020. Before 2020, yes.
Sorry, are you saying it was in 2020 or before?
Before, yes. Because 2020, I remember it because of the pandemic, so it was before that.
Okay, so, and that you said was at the wedding.
Yes.
And so you spoke to him on that day?
Yes, I did.
And did you exchange numbers that day?
No.
When did you exchange numbers?
On a later stage.
Do you recall when?
I don't recall when, but also Mr. General Senona also, he's from the same, I'll say, as a township as Mr. Msibi. So I knew him because sometimes he will be with Mr. Msibi, and then that's how I knew. I got to I would say get closer to him.
Okay, so you met him at his wedding, but your introduction, the reason you went to the wedding wasn't because Mr. Msibi introduced you.
No, it's
that
not.
was, and then you're saying that your relationship grew closer with the assistance of Mr. Msibi because he had a relationship with General Senona.
Not with his assistance, because I think it was the funeral of. They are from the same township, so he was at the funeral of Mr. Msibi's mother. And then I was sitting after the funeral. I was sitting with him on the same table. Where after the funeral, we were eating. Then I was on the same table with him.
With General Senona.
Yes.
Right. So I get that. So you became friends. At some point you exchanged numbers.
Yes,
so you weren't only meeting him at weddings and funerals.
That's my big, not friends, because he's my, I'll say, an older brother.
Okay, there's more to come from Kat Matlala. He said he discussed difficulties relating to the SAPS tender with General Senona, as well as a story of a raid. Here it is.
Okay. And did you discuss your contract difficulties with SAPS with him?
Yes, I did, yes.
And when was that you discussed that with him?
I'll say maybe in the beginning of 2025 or towards the end of 2024, somewhere there, yes.
Okay, so end of 2024, beginning 2025. End of 2024 was also the time at which you had the raid at your place by the GCI Ops team on 6 December, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then there was a second one in December as well. I think it might have been around 18 or 19 December. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you discuss that police action that was taken against you? Did you discuss that with General Senona?
Yes, I did.
And what was the content of that discussion?
Let me just start with the first raid. I was worried that I thought I was robbed, but as soon as I found out that they are police who came to do the raid, so I told him about what happened, because he was in Pretoria, I remember. So I didn't need to go to KZN, he was around. So I explained to him what happened, and I think that's it. So, yes, I just explained to him what happened, and then he just said to me, and I told him that, listen, they even took my phones. I cannot even make transaction. I even borrowed money from him.
And there's more. Then Kat Matlala made the point that he informed General Senona about the second raid, but because he believed he was being targeted.
What was the concern in relation to the second raid?
The concern now, it was because I thought that was a personal thing. Like I explained earlier, that the police went to my office to do an inspection, and while they were there, they ended up coming up with a charge of negligence, I'll say, because I had a spare key of my safe where we keep our weapons. And I did not know, according to the law, you're not supposed to do that because, as an owner of the company. So, but the way the police came to my house to arrest me, then I thought this is more than what it was supposed to be, because they came with this task force members to arrest me for his key. Then I explained that to him, that I don't think this is what it is. There might be more to this thing. Then he advised me that maybe he will ask around and he will tell me what is happening.
Okay, let me just pause you for a moment there. When you discussed this with him, was he still in Pretoria? Did you discuss it with him in person?
Yes, I was with him.
Where were you?
Yes, in Pretoria.
In Pretoria?
Yes.
In Menlyn, Maine?
Yes.
At your place?
I only met him yes. When he was in Pretoria, the only place that we'll meet is at my apartment.
Okay.
And then finally, as far as the Madlanga Commission goes, Commissioner Khumalo then asked Vusimuzi Cat Matlala whether he believed the PKTT had raided his home. Listen to this.
Did you believe that it was the PKTT that raided your house? Did you hold that belief in December 2024?
You mean before or after I met the former Minister Kelly?
During 2024. So there's a raid at your house, and after that, there's a raid at your business premises. What was your belief? Did you believe it was the PKTT? Who did you believe raided your house?
I did not know until I met Minister Kelly.
And then when you met Minister Kelly, what was your belief as regards who raided your
properties?
Yes,
he told me, yes.
He said it was who?
Yes, the PKTT.
He said it was the PKTT?
Yes.
So at the end of December 2024, you believe that the PKTT had raided your house and your business premises?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we'll break away from the commission for now, but reaction from you is, I'm inviting you. So what do you make of what you've heard today about the Madlanga Commission? In fact, what have you made about any other issue that's bubbling at the moment, whatever it is that you want to get off your chest? Let's get the news headlines now. Here's on Dela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Swimming South Africa has been plunged into a leadership crisis, with President Alan Fritz and Chief Executive Officer Sean Adrianse being provisionally suspended by World Aquatics Integrity Unit. 4 South Africans are among hundreds of tourists who remain unaccounted for after flash floods hit the Nepal-Tibet border. 31 people have died, and authorities say the death toll could rise further. And Congress of Traditional Leaders President Kgoshima Thupha-Mokoena has urged traditional leaders to facilitate democracy in their areas by establishing a level playing field for all those contesting the upcoming local government elections. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This is SAfm Sports with Duming Khapele.
To me, it's all about what's happening in the boardroom, not on the field of play. Certainly is the case with SAFA.
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, SAFA elections are facing calls for a possible delay amid growing concerns over the association's governance. Patriotic Alliance MP Marlon Daniels says that SAFA is currently not in a suitable state to hold a credible leadership contest, and also questioned whether the election should go ahead while allegations of governance irregularities and forged documents remain unresolved. Daniels called out for urgent engagement with SASCOC and Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie to determine what intervention may be possible. The SAFA elections are set to happen on the 12th of September, but Daniels says priority must be ensuring that the vote is free, fair and transparent. Meanwhile, the huge discrepancy in the salary packages between the soon-to-be Bafana Bafana coach Pitso Mosimane and his predecessor Hugo Broos was another talking point that dominated the Parliamentary Committee of Sports, Arts and Culture meeting with the South African Football Association yesterday. And SAFA chairperson of Finance Committee, Mxolisi Sibam, revealed that initially Bruce's salary was supposed to be 8 million rand annually, but it ended up rising to 16.8 million rand.
I can tell you what was discussed in the executive meeting, NEC meeting, and then we can take it from there.
Yes.
It was reported in the NEC meeting that the initial offer of 5 million was not accepted by Pizzo, if I can refer to him as Pizzo, was not accepted. After long deliberation...
That's fine. That's fine. Where you are, that's fine. That's what I wanted, the number.
That was the initial offer. There was a final one as well, that there was a range given that the maximum would be that we will take it up to 10 million. And what happened after that, I don't know.
The context is that the NEC took a decision in that NEC, and the final, the resolution of the NEC, I'm talking about what happened in the NEC, is the 10 million. That's the final resolution of the NEC. Now, in reality, is that they might have other activities that happened before the NEC itself. So I can't speak about that. Particularly when it comes to the 5 million, I can only speak about the 10 million that the NEC had approved.
Elsewhere, Raheem Sterling will appear in court next month. This is after being charged with dangerous driving and having notorious oxide for improper use. The former England winger crashed his Lamborghini into barriers on the M3 motorway at Hampshire on the morning of the 28th of May. The 31-year-old was arrested after the crash and later released on bail while police continued the investigation. Police had suspected that Sterling was driving while unfit because of drugs, but he has not been charged with that offence. On to cricket. England will look to move past their latest drinking controversy when they face Pakistan in the second test at Lord's tomorrow. England are confident after beating Pakistan by 103 runs at Headingley last week. However, much of the focus has been on fast bowler Bryden Coss, who has been dropped from the squad and is under investigation after an incident at a Derby club. The incident is the latest in the series of alcohol-related controversies involving England. Finally, in golf, the PGA Tour season from 2028 will culminate in a new match play tournament that pits the world's top golfers against one another across 2 weeks. This is according to Chief Executive Officer Brian Rollup. The latest in a series of major changes to golf's calendar intended to boost the sport's popularity is the new finale, which will feature 32 players based on final season-long standings. Week 1 will feature a group stage in which 8 groups of 4 players will battle it out head-to-head, with the top 2 from each group progressing. Then the following week at a different venue, the 16 remaining players will clash knockout style, with the only undefeated player left after 4 rounds crowned as the Tour Championship winner. That's it from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
So, Tommy, quick question from you, right? I mean, is it a fair point that because the organization is not being run properly, they need more time to run it properly, then we can have an election? Yes, no? Does it make sense?
I think it does make sense. I feel like they usually say where there's... is it where there's smoke, there's no fire? Where there's fire, there's no smoke? Something like that. But I feel like all these allegations did not just come on its own, and they need to be looked into before the elections go ahead. I think for me, it's every SAFA or almost every SAFA elections, there's always some stories. However, the elections still go ahead, and there's always some sort of complaint. So perhaps look into those complaints and see if they're true or not, and then carry on with the elections.
Well, who oversees an election, it does mean then, in the meantime, that the incumbents can stay on for however long it takes to sort out the problem. Let's think about that. Thanks for that, Stumi. More to come. By the way, what do you guys think? Elections, SAFA elections, should that be delayed or postponed because they appear to be in a bit of a leadership crisis? Sort it out, fix it up first, then have an election? Or in fact, the other way around, because there's a crisis of sorts, have the election now? Which one would you go for?
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This September, S3 brings you thought-provoking nature dockies that will change the way in which you view the world. Temperature Rising tells the story of three activists as they grapple with what thinking globally and acting locally means as they fight the barriers to climate action. Airs Sunday the 8th of September. Channel your inner activist with our selection of premium dockies Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Head to Dis-Chem for great value on everything you need. Look out for the yellow label to enjoy bulk savings on Better Rewards brands. Swipe your Better Rewards card to get 2+1 cheapest free and an extra 10% off lifestyle food 150 grams and 300 grams dried mango. Plus, get 2+1 cheapest free and an extra 10% off any Centrum multivitamin products. Valid until 13 September at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
This is Global Watch on the National Pulse.
Oh, but above all of this, I wish you love, and I will always love you. I will always
And that song, iconic song, I Will Always Love You, became a global classic, originally written as a farewell to her mentor, that's Porter Wagner in 1974. That song then was picked up again by Whitney Houston, right? And then was played, made in mainstream Hollywood media to the point where we cannot forget it. I Will Always Love You. And it's iconic and perhaps the right time to play that song as a tribute to Dolly Parton. I know Bridget spoke about it earlier on, but I can tell you now, you just know when someone is universally iconic, when every WhatsApp group talks about her. So, to recap, Dolly Parton then dying at the age of 80 after facing a brief battle with cancer. There's been tributes around the world, but listen to this. This is what Dolly Parton had to say about her own health a few months ago, in fact.
Well, hey there, it's Dolly, and I'm here to give you an update on a few things going on in my life. First, it's concerning my health, and I have some good news and a little bad news. But the good news is I'm responding really well to meds and treatments, and I'm improving every day. Now, the bad news is it's going to take me a little while before I'm up to stage performance level, because some of the meds and treatments make me a little bit swimmy-headed, as my grandma used to say. And, of course, I can't be dizzy carrying around banjos, guitars, and such on 5-inch heels, and you know that I'm going to be wearing them. Not to mention all those heavy rhinestone outfits, the big hair, my big personality. Lord, that would make anybody swim-headed. But just think of me as like an old classic car that once restored can be better than ever. But when they raised the hood on this old antique, they realized that I need to rebuild my engine, and that my transmission is slipping, my oil pan is leaking, and my muffler's busted, and my shocks and pistons need to be replaced, and for sure my spark plugs need to be changed, because you know, as well as I know, that I can't lose my spark. I know, I'm still crazy, but they didn't mention nothing about my mental health. But I've told you before that I've always had problems with my kidney stones. Lord, they dig more stones out of me a year than the rock quarry in Rockwood, Tennessee. But seriously, my immune system and my digestive system got all out of whack over the past 3 years, and they're working real hard on rebuilding and strengthening those. And hopefully, I'll be up to snuff again soon. Maybe I shouldn't have said snuff. Snuff wouldn't be very good for either of those, would it? Plus, I wouldn't want my lower lip to fall off on top of everything else. That'd be like losing a hubcap, wouldn't it? Anyway, I know I'm being silly, but I'm just trying to keep everything light and airy. They say that a happy heart is like good medicine.
A happy heart is like good medicine. Well, that was in May of this year. A few months later, Dolly Parton is no more, right? And perhaps you may want to reflect on the Dolly Parton factor yourself in terms of the impact that she's made in your life. You know, when you have these global icons, they do touch you, and you reflect even more so when they're gone. So do that, and just send us some comments on that as well too. Okay, let's get on to other issues now. The Pretoria Masters. In fact, we're going to get to that just now. Hold it. I'll tell you what, here's another development. This year marking several significant milestones in South Africa's democratic history, and that'll it'll commemorated under the Milestones of Freedom campaign. So the campaign launched at the Union Buildings on the 18th of June. Now, the official theme of the campaign is Honoring the Past, Delivering the Future. So tomorrow, the Free State Province will host the Milestones of Freedom campaign. Let's find out more about it with Michael Curran, who's the Deputy Director General for Intergovernmental Coordination and Stakeholder Management at the GCIS. Michael, appreciate you engaging us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm just having to say to the listeners, I'm so sorry the Deputy Minister couldn't be here. He would really want to be here, but a short while ago he was asked to attend a very urgent meeting. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you guys this afternoon and really to share with the listeners apology for DM Morolong. He had to be unexpectedly where he was required. So, yeah.
That's fine. Well, I mean, first of all, the apology accepted, and really appreciate you fronting up anyway. So very much so. Thank you for that, right?
Very glad to be here. I'm very pleased to share. It's a project in the team that is under my office that I'm working with among colleagues across the GSAS. So I don't think you've got a booby prize, I hope.
Okay. All right. Tell me then more about the project. What's the plan? Tell me more.
You know, to the listeners and to you, Ashraf, I mean, obviously social cohesion is at the root of a well-functioning society, you know. The way in which you harness the memories of a society, the people who've made a difference in the lives of people in your society, the development of that society. And in our case, it's very unique, Ashraf, because we've got a constitutional democracy. We've got a constitutional democracy that is very, very well regarded all over the world for various reasons. Yes, 30 years of that constitution is one of the milestones we're looking at. So this campaign comes almost very interestingly at a moment where these round and sort of round numbers of a range of our national history anniversaries are coming in. So we've got the 50th anniversary of the Youth Uprising, we've got the 70th anniversary of the woman who marched to the Union Buildings in 1956, 60th anniversary of people who were forcibly removed from District 6, 50th anniversary of the Constitution, 25 years of democratic local government, and a range of such anniversaries. So we felt as government that in the spirit of, first of all, memorializing and being proud of things that contributed to our national identity, these are very good celebrations because all of them have a very significant role to play in the identity of our nation. But at the same time, Ashraf, the Milestones of Freedom campaign, like you pointed out, says honoring the past, delivering the future. It's that winning spirit of South Africa that's sort of embodied in these milestones that reflects young people who are agents for progressive change, women who can stand up and, you know, take the society on when there's oppression. Those qualities are really about how we deliver a future that we all want.
Yeah,
you know?
good point.
So,
yeah.
You know?
So you have some specific programs in terms of milestones, right, that reflects honoring the past, delivering the future.
Yeah.
I think about 5 or 6 campaigns. Just run through those.
Well, I mean, the first thing that our nation is obviously concerned about when we move around is the cleanliness of our nation, right? The cleanliness of the communities we live in. So one of the sub-programs we want to run about this is around Love Your Streets. Clean up around your place, clean up in your streets. Because when you have a clean environment, your mind and your community attitude and your spirit of whether we're winning this battle about development is a very different experience. I mean, I was in Buffalo City last week, and compared to what it looked like last year, it was amazing. And straight away, you start feeling, you know what, we're winning. We're changing the tide against unemployment, against poor service delivery, because it looks so good, you know. The campaign is very important because, and even today, there was one of them in the space of gender and women, is intergenerational dialogue. And one of the campaigns we're running, is a sub-theme of this initiative, is that people who are older, maybe a bit wiser, been around the bush, who've experienced some of the things, can share life lessons with some of the young people who want to understand how they can grapple with some of their challenges now. So, and the same way as these young people are saying to older people, listen, it's our time now. We're dealing with these challenges. This is how we're dealing with them. What do you think? You know? And so there's an intergenerational dialogue. Tomorrow in the Princess we'll also have that. Obviously, Ashraf and listeners, there's this whole focus on memorializing. I mean, we have incredible people. I participated in the KZN launch, and we went to Chief Lutuli's gravesite. And for South Africans who've never been to Chief Lutuli's grave, you have to go there. You have to go there and memorialize the first Nobel Peace winner on the African continent. And you see the living legacy of that great leader, a South African, an international leader, an African leader. You go there to the community you built. You see the amazing community work that young people are doing. And you know that you are in the presence of greatness. I mean, it was very emotional for the leaders who were doing the wreath. So the third thing is about commemorating. Tomorrow there's a march in the Free State. They're doing a walk. Memorializing Charlotte Maxeke. Now, Charlotte Maxeke was way ahead of her time for women and in the society at large. And South Africans, when we say in the world today, we punch above our weight. Remember South Africans, Ashraf, who punched above their weight 100 years ago. Women who weren't stopping and saying, well, women belong in a certain place in society. These were women who took a lead, you know. So those are some of the campaigns we've been doing. Obviously, this has also to do with issues around, the issues of the day, the employment issues of young people, how they can get involved in service delivery issues of municipality, you know. Those are some of the issues.
There's a lot. All right. Is there anything else you think that's important to note? You've got 30 seconds to make a comment.
Well, I think, thank you so much for inviting us. And to the listeners, you know, South Africa belongs to all of us who live in it, as our democratic constitution says. That's right. Get involved. Get involved in your municipality. Don't complain and whine and shout or whatever. Get involved in the life of your municipality. Be a civic activist. Be a civic participant. Get into your community police forum. Take it up why there's litter lying on your street, why your street lights aren't working. Don't just sit back and say, oh, well, the municipality didn't do it, you know.
Okay.
You know, take the role in the society that we wanted in
well, therein lies the big challenge, isn't it? Reflect on the past and be inspired by that, as you said, honoring the past, delivering the future, and do that tomorrow. Michael Curran, let's leave it at that. Thanks for your time. Deputy Director General for Intergovernmental Coordination and Stakeholder Management at the GCIS. And that whole campaign kicks off in the Free State tomorrow.
90 years of conversations, recaptured, relived, and projected. SAfm.
SAfM family, my name is Makhadi Makua from Pretoria. I mean, congratulations on celebrating 90 years of broadcasting excellence. First and foremost, your dedication milestone be a reminder of your rich legacy and inspiration for many years to come. Happy 90th anniversary. Here's to more future great broadcasting.
From the voices that shaped our past to the conversations defining our future, SAfm celebrates 90 years. Looking for exclusive content, live events, and special broadcasts like the Madlanga Commission? Then connect to the all-new SAfm Connect stream. The Madlanga Commission, live and uninterrupted from 9:30 Monday to Friday. SAfm Connect brings you more of the conversations that matter. Listen anytime, anywhere by visiting connect.safm.co.za or stream directly on SABC Plus at sabc-plus.com. SAfm Connect. More conversations, more access. There's much more coming. X at SAfmRadio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, you may want to comment on that conversation we just had around this theme of honouring the past, delivering the future, and the various campaigns being put together under that. By the way, after 4 o'clock, there's a poll, there's a ranking in terms of what the country thinks of the president, what the country thinks of government, what the country thinks of different departments within government, and just general sentiments. We'll talk about that. I'll be chatting to Sifiso Falala about that later on, so looking forward to that conversation and see what comes out of it. In the meantime, there's more to talk about from a legal perspective. The Pretoria Masters Court is facing serious questions over severe disruptions, or service disruptions in this case, digital failures and growing backlogs after Justice Minister Mameloko Kubai witnessed the challenges firsthand during an unannounced oversight visit and referred to a 415 million rand digitization contract for investigation. Basically, that contract's gone, the service around it has gone missing. Kalbani Pillay, Acting Director General for the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, is with us. Appreciate you engaging us on the National Pulse. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tell me more. I mean, I think the start point here is the minister doing this unannounced oversight visit. What did the minister discover?
The minister discovered that there was no network connection, that the digitized records that were in possession of the service provider was still with them, and the service provider had actually blocked access to the database to retrieve the records at a particular time, and which has since been unblocked.
Okay. And I mean, it does put into question so many issues around disruption, because we hear this over and over again. So part of the plan is to find out more about it and therefore referring the contract to the SIU and the Hawks. Tell me more about that. I mean, what's the next step in that process?
There would have to be an investigation into the contract itself, the performance of the contract, the payment of the service provider, the services that were rendered, but most importantly, the ownership of the records and the return thereof to the department, and the digital records on the ownership of that records, and to then hand that over to the department, because it's our records that belong to us, and we need access to it, and that's to unblock any obstacles in that regard. But obviously, in the long term, for us to look at our digitization strategy for all the records in the department, because this relates not only to some master's offices, but it also relates to a few courts as well, and that's how we would want to go forward with it.
Interesting. I mean, the point is to look at this entire contract and refer it to the SIU, right? That's one part. The other one is just poor service delivery. I mean, anything come up in terms of, one is not even to question whether it's underhand or an irregular deal, but the other is, even if the deal is normal, there's still poor and shocking service delivery. Has that come up for conversation?
Yes, definitely. That is the part of the conversation that is very critical to us as well. So what we found happened, Ashraf, is that the master's office was situated in a particular building in the Pretoria city centre, and they moved to a new premises, which is because the lease had expired on the old building and they needed to move to another space. So that space was being prepared for occupation for several months, and we were given a final notice to move from that space into the new space. After making all the arrangements to ensure with the landlord and with the new landlord and with the service providers to ensure that the network is up and running, we found that there were several snags and there were several issues with connectivity in the new building. And when we contacted the service providers to ask what was the turnaround time, we were given a ridiculous number of days by when they would connect us to the network. And so because the move was also rushed, the network services were not all up and running. So that was also one of the unacceptable failures of management in not ensuring that there's network provision in the building when people actually move. So that was one of the major problems that we are dealing with, and of course there will be consequences for those management failures, and we've already taken some action in that regard. But what we've now done is we've ensured that the files that we did have in our possession have now been filed properly. and that there is a network running together with other alternate means of connecting to the network through Wi-Fi. So we've attended to those.
Okay, what happens next in this process?
What will happen next is that we need to have a proper digitization strategy, as I indicated already. But I think the master's officers, as we have spoken about before and openly so, is that it's an archaic system that we are running on old laws. We need to do a lot of work in that regard. There was also an SIU report on corruption within the master's offices itself, where we've taken consequence management, and the final report has been submitted to us, which we are going to take further action. So there's a number of matters that need to be dealt with. But over and above that, how do we bring the masters up to the current day, a modern entity in terms of how it renders its services? We are partnering with other entities and with business leaders as well to see how can we make this an efficient and a good structure that is reliable and delivers its services. So we're looking at a number of aspects and how we can improve. Some are bearing fruit, but it's a journey that we have to undertake.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Kalavani Pillay, the Acting Director General for the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. It's an interesting story, but it's something we hear so much about. I mean, just to get it right, the Pretoria Masters Court now facing serious questions over service disruptions, digital failures and growing backlogs. And they found, as a result of that, the 450 million rand digitization contract has been now set up for investigation. Have we heard that before? Of course we have. So we'll talk about the Track Pulse in a moment, which is it's a new Track Pulse just been launched that measures the government approval ratings and the presidential approval ratings. Are you interested? You ought to be. Let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Undella.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, Swimming South Africa President and CEO provisionally suspended, and traditional leaders urged to remain neutral during electoral processes. For SAFM News, I'm Ondelambana, and a very good afternoon. Swimming South Africa has been plunged into a leadership crisis with the President Alan Fritz and Chief Executive Officer Shaun Adriaanse being provisionally suspended by World Aquatics Integrity Unit. Their provisional suspension follows potential violations of the World Aquatics Integrity Code, including abuse of power and provision of false information and fake documents. It's believed the collapse of Swimming South Africa's French Hook High Performance Centre, for which the Federation received approximately 111 million rand in funding, is at the centre of the investigation. More than 50 million rand was reportedly spent, but the site has since fallen into disrepair. 4 South Africans are among hundreds of tourists who remain unaccounted for after flash floods hit the Nepal-Tibet border. 31 people have died, and authorities say the death toll could rise further. Initial reports suggest a landslide may have triggered the floods, but there is no official confirmation. Our South Asia correspondent Niha Punya.
Hundreds are missing after flash floods hit the Rasuva district of Nepal. It's a mountainous district in the north that borders Tibet, and it's a popular destination for many tourists. The Nepal Tourism Board has confirmed that more than 300 travelers were missing. Of them, 4 are South African nationals. Now, videos posted online by police teams show a huge gust of water rushing towards multi-story buildings along a river. The flood water is sweeping away a bridge and destroying houses in just a few minutes. Armed forces and paramilitary troops are now involved in rescue operations.
Fewer than 5 days remain for social grant beneficiaries to migrate from SASSA Gold cards to Postbank Black cards. The deadline is the 31st of August. Postbank says there are still beneficiaries who need to complete the migration process, and the deadline will not be extended. While grant payments will still be made after the deadline, beneficiaries will need to migrate before they can access their funds. Tami Gele is the Postbank Chief Commercial Officer.
We are now sitting at over 1.8 million who have successfully converted, to the Postbank Black Card. So thank you to them for responding. We are now left with just over 80,000. I think it's a natural case of people leaving things to last minute. That's as simple as we can state, because the communication has been happening for the last 6 months, consistently, and we think maybe people has prioritized other activities over the card replacement. But what we're saying is that the time has now run out. It is important that they use the 4 days that are left to come and collect their cards.
Several areas in Mahikeng in northwest are without electricity after Mahikeng Eskom substation was gutted by fire earlier today. The affected areas include Mahikeng CBD and parts of Mabato and Majimancho village. The cause of the fire has not yet been established, while Eskom says it is still assessing the damage. A time frame for the restoration of electricity has also not yet been confirmed. Eskom says the fire at its Mahikeng substation has been contained. Eskom Northwest Regional spokesperson Ezekiel Baruti.
Eskom can confirm that it received a call that one of its substations in Mahikeng town is on fire. The technical team was then immediately dispatched. The team, assisted by the fire department, was able to contain and extinguish the fire. Our team is still at the said substation, and further details will follow later in the day. Some of the areas affected by this incident are Mahikeng town, Majemanso, Lomanyaneng, some parts of Mabato, as well as other neighboring villages.
On election news, Congress of Traditional Leaders President Kgoshi Matupa Mokoena has urged traditional leaders to facilitate democracy in their areas by establishing a level playing field for all those contesting the upcoming local government elections. He said this during an engagement of the body and the IEC on Gauteng's East Rand. Mokoena added that while the service delivery frustrations experienced by communities have led to calls for traditional leadership to contest the polls, this would be contrary to their role as a representative of all, regardless of political affiliation.
We want to make a serious call to all our traditional leadership and our people to say there must be no place where it will be declared as a no-go area for a particular organization. We want to allow organizations to come to our areas and spread the gospel, convey their messages. It will be up to our people to choose who they want to vote for.
Recapping the top story, swimming South Africa has been plunged into a leadership crisis, with President Alan Fritz and Chief Executive Officer Sean Adrianse being provisionally suspended by World Aquatics Integrity Unit. I'm Ondilambana for SAFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Rugby declines meeting with referee Stellenbosch FC, high in confidence ahead of Golden Arrows clash, and New York offers discounted US Open tickets for residents. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. We start in Pretoria with some delays down the M1 South. That is a crash before Rigel Avenue. Traffic this afternoon currently backing all the way through to about Atterbury Road. That looks quite bad. The N1 North out of Joburg up through Midrand, but Clue down to New Road is slow. There's a breakdown on the N3 South at Helden East just after Van Buren. That traffic starts back in Edenvale on that N3 through Galilees, and behind that the N12 and R24 routes coming in from the Ekurhuleni side badly backed up as well. Just south of Pietermaritzburg through to Ashburton, traffic flowing nicely that way. The N2 North clogged up again through Spaghetti Junction, so additional road closures today just north of the interchange, and there's a breakdown in the roadworks heading out of Durban at Paradise Valley. So from Pavilion Mall, the pressure on as you join a queue out towards the Pinetown area. Cape Town crash on the M1 out of town at Yiptiaga, that's on the top of Tygerberg Hill. It's heavy today. Traffic really sort of backing up from about the Kuberg interchange, so just out of the CBD it gets really heavy. Also a crash on the R300 North at the ramp to Old Paarl Road. That is slow, and there's been a crash on the N2 outbound near Rappenberg Road, causing a delay coming out through Hospital Bend. Also impacting M3 inbound from Newlands. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, what do you make of the move now where the 415 million rand digitization project contract now up for investigation being sent to the Hawks, an IT contract that is placed in the Pretoria Masters Court, the irony of it all. What do you make of the goings on today at the Madlanga Commission? Again, some of the testimony that we've heard, then that Free State plan, or the plan of this new campaign, honouring the past, delivering the future. What do you think works? And then that previous conversation we had earlier on about the motion of no confidence put together by the EFF, they tabling it to remove, well, the National Assembly Speaker, Toko Didiza. That's one. There's a whole lot more that's come up. You may have heard yesterday Julius Malema in Parliament questioning the President around South Africa's handling of the migrant issue and how that has cost South Africa, let's call it brownie points, that's my words, on the African continent, and the President responds to that, suggesting there could be an ulterior, global force, some may say third force. Any thoughts you want to pick up on that, also welcome. In fact, you may want to also reflect on what your feelings are about the President himself, and where does he sit in your approval ratings, your personal ratings, and where does government sit? I'll tell you why. We'll talk about that after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
To all you very talented people who entered the Top Billing Presenter Search for 2026, thank you for the time and effort you put into your auditions. It feels like you're coming for our jobs.
We're so impressed by the standard of the presenting and of the video entries.
It was not an easy decision, as you can imagine, but we have our top 40 and you can see them on SABC Plus. And let us know what you think on our social channels.
Thank you so much for your incredible support, your kindness, and sharing our passion for the show. It means so much to us, and we're grateful to have you as part of the Top Billing family.
One of these days, we could be watching you on Top Billing. Thursdays at 7, Sundays at 1 on S3, and Tuesday nights at 9:30 on SABC 1. You knew that.
Every generation has a story. Every generation has questions. Every generation has a voice. For 90 years, SAFM has been part of the conversation. This August, we listen back to the voices that brought us here. We celebrate the people who shaped our journey, and we listen for the voices that will shape what comes next, including the launch of a new annual SAFM property. This Women's Month, we are in search of an SAFM woman. 4 extraordinary women, 4 extraordinary journeys. One question: what does it mean to be an SAFM woman? SAFM 90 years. Women, a new voice. 90 years of conversation. A nation story. Our shared future. From 1 August, SAFM. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
I've just picked up this about leadership, and it comes from now the late Dolly Parton. And listen to this one. She's more famous for singing, and she's also said she's been the butt of jokes as well in the past. But this is what she said: if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. There we are. Right, let's talk about leadership. There's a fascinating project that I've seen. It's called Track Pulse. And as you can hear, well, it's got the name Pulse, like the National Pulse, the show. But they track the pulse, tracking the pulse of the nation in this case here, both in terms of the president and the presidential ratings and government approval ratings. It's something that happens in other countries, but this has just been launched in South Africa. Let's find out more about it and what do the ratings say so far. Dr. Sifiso Falala is the CEO and the founder of Plus 94 Research that has put together this Track Pulse. So, Sifiso, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thanks, Ashraf. How are you doing?
I'm good indeed. So interesting. We call the National Pulse. You have launched Track Pulse. Tell me all about it.
Track Pulse is not just about the presidential poll. That's one of the measures that are included or incorporated in Track Pulse. It is actually a digital platform for collecting data that allows citizens to submit information about themselves, about their experiences in South Africa, based on prescribed surveys that we design, but also based on voluntary surveys that they craft themselves. And one of the measures that do stand out there is the presidential approval survey, which I know you're interested in talking about.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, I mean, look, there's surveys and there's hundreds of surveys. And I understand that in the build-up to the elections, there'll be many polls. And, of course, political parties will use the polls to their advantage depending on how it comes through, right? But in terms of an approval rating for government and approval rating for the president, we don't have that, do we? I know other countries do.
We don't talk about it as much, and where we have it sponsored by non-governmental organizations, such as, for instance, Afrobarometer. They do it regularly across many African countries. But what is interesting is that the more advanced countries tend to have approval ratings, because what they do is they help government to shape its policies and to adjust service delivery, as well as the competence and performance of various departments in between elections, rather than waiting for a 5-year period and then be shocked that the people all along did not like what they were doing. So the approval ratings are there to empower both citizens and also to empower those that are in authority to actually see, apart from the government appraising itself and saying we are doing very well, do the people, members of the public, also agree with them that they are doing as well as they say they are, for instance, in the State of the Nation address?
Okay, let's get to those approval ratings so far. So what is, in terms of your polling now, what does it say about the sentiments towards the president of the country?
The results for the president actually are quite depressed in terms of the standards that are set across the world. A president or a leader should obtain ratings that are at least 50% of those that are polled in a nationally representative sample. In our case, the approval ratings are 29.6%, and his government is 26%. So these numbers are not very good, but they are not surprising because, as you've seen, that the party that he leads, the ANC, has been losing a lot of numbers in elections, and it'll be interesting to actually see how they perform in the forthcoming elections. So what it does indicate is that there might be certain issues that need to be addressed, and we've seen with the strikes, the public agitation in terms of disapproval and discontent within the country, that there are rumblings and indications of unhappiness.
Okay, but so what it means that by and large, with the president's rating of 29 and the government of 26, they largely mirror each other, right? That means they see one as synonymous with the other. You may get another situation where the president of a country would have high ratings, but his government may have very poor ratings because just the symbolism around the president, for example.
Yeah, there's actually a statistical phenomenon there called presidential premium, which is what he's getting is rated slightly better than his government. But what is appalling is that the direction that the government is taking under his leadership is 22%, receives a 22% approval, meaning that almost 80% of South Africans, we do not feel that we're moving in the right direction. And this is very, very concerning. And the issues that do come up, obviously, we had recent unemployment numbers updated. That's a major issue. It's over 33% and over 50% of the youth. The cost of living, which has not been made any better by worldwide events, which had an impact on, for instance, the cost of fuel, corruption, and that's a big one because it seems to be correlated to the cost of living, correlated to unemployment, investment potential, and crime.
Okay, and then to bring it down to government itself and government departments, what can you tell us about that?
They are different. There are some government departments that are seen to be doing much better than others. For instance, basic education has an approval rating of 54%, which is relatively good, not exceptional. The Department of Health, 50%. So those are the only two departments that, as of now, have a rating that is above 50%. Thereafter, you have trade and industry, 44%, transport, 44%, police, 40%, electricity, 38%, and so on. What is interesting is that of the ones that we monitored, the lowest is international relations and cooperation at 29%, similar to the approval ratings for the president. But what is nice, though, Ashraf, about the track pulse and the live tracking is that these results can change and do change depending on events. So they become a tool for monitoring what the impact would be, for instance, when these findings are reviewed at the end of next month.
Okay, well, so you've half answered the question. This is not like an annual once-off. In fact, we're going to be in a position where we can monitor around those indices every single month.
Yes, and it's also live. So if the listeners can go to kiosks, KIOSKS, +94research, .co.za, they would be able to actually access the live Track Pulse survey. We get that data from them, whoever is a South African is able to participate. And then we are also then in a position to weight the data so that it is demographically representative of the South African population.
Okay, and I've seen, I'm just going to rush through this very quickly. In terms of the biggest issues facing South Africa, the poll says unemployment 47%, corruption 16%, cost of living 14%, crime 13%, which is actually less than the 47%, ironically. Now, you've only got 20 seconds to answer this. What for you, of all the results that's come through from this initial track pulse, what is the one number that has just most surprised you? You got 20 seconds.
I think the actual approval itself, it is more surprising because it's the first time that we are monitoring this.
Understandably so. All right, so they must get to the Track Pulse. Feel free to tweet about it as well. We can certainly share that. I think there's a lot more detail that the audience would love to know, and I'd love to share that with them as well. Safisa Falala, appreciate your time here. Thanks for joining us. Follow it. Track Pulse, presidential approval in the 20s, government slightly less. Where the country is going, 22%. Yeah, doesn't sound very good at all. You may want to comment on that too, and I'll read some further thoughts later on.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Welcome to the SABC Radio Archives. For over a century, we've passionately captured South Africa's heartbeat, preserving historic moments,
Time for the healing of the wounds has come.
iconic music, and compelling storytelling from all 19 SABC radio stations, ensuring these priceless recordings shape future generations. Explore a century of South African heritage waiting to be rediscovered. Visit the SABC Information Library and Radio Archive archives online or call us directly at 011-714-3936 or email lishilosj@sabc.co.za. SABC Libraries and Archives, preserving the past, supporting the present, inspiring the future.
Right, you wouldn't pay celebrity chef prices for instant noodles now, would you? So why overpay to insure your older car? Outsurance Essential Car Insurance covers older cars for much less. 68-year-old John pays only 391 Rand a month for his 2014 Chevrolet Sonic, gets claim paid in cash and chooses to his own panel beater as well. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 150,000 rands. SMS CAR to 43185. CAR 43185. Licensed insurer and FSP T's and C's and information available online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I'll read some of the other points regarding those approval ratings, and they make for very sober reading, depending on which side of the fence you sit on. Certainly from a government point of view, you ought to be very, very concerned. Sometimes it's not a surprise, but it just confirms exactly what people think about, people in positions of power. So the president, 29%, which means 70-odd% do not approve of his leadership. Talking of leadership, what about Steve Biko? Now, the reopening of the Steve Biko inquest has renewed focus on black consciousness activists who died in detention and whose stories have often been forgotten or marginalized. So let's take a look at the historical significance of the inquest, the pattern of unresolved deaths in detention, the connection between Mapetla Mohapi and Biko, and the impact of delayed justice on families, and whether South Africa has adequately confronted apartheid-era political killings while preserving the broader legacy of black consciousness. With me is Zikhona Valley, the historian and author of Now You Know How Mapetla Died, the story of a black consciousness martyr. Zikhona, thanks for joining me on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having me, Ashraf. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners. I just wanted to correct the pronunciation of my surname is Valela.
Oh, it's complete. Okay, it's not even here. My apology. Okay,
No problem.
All right, we'll fix that up. Valela, got that right. Okay, let's then talk about what do you make of the reopening of the Steve Biko inquest and the implications thereof.
I think it is a necessary, step towards correcting the record around our history. And I mean, this is part of, it flows from, the decision to reopen the unsolved cases of the TRC, the subject of my book being one, Mapetla Mohapi. And so I think it's a really important step towards the families in particular finding closure. And I think for the rest of us, whether you are a historian, a biographer, or even just an ordinary citizen, to sort of tie up those loose ends about where we come from 30 years later.
Okay. And in terms of this, I mean, it raises questions around many challenges. One's the unresolved issues. There's also issues of funding for people who are victims, in terms of families. Which ones for you think are particularly important?
I think with this particular situation, I mean, the Biko family, I think probably are on the more privileged side of things, because this is probably one of the third instance in which we've kind of brought focus to Biko and how he died. And what I'm hoping for, I think in terms of funding, what they've highlighted is the challenge of actually bringing these things to the fore in the first place, because not only are the wheels of justice the types to grind slowly, that also leads to high costs for families that aren't necessarily in a position to self-fund. So I think that this particular case, given the prominence of Steve Biko, I think it should help us shine a spotlight on lesser known families and to sort of dig deeper into some of those figures and families and their own quests to find justice, because between Biko and Mapetla Mohapi, there are 21 deaths in detention.
Yeah.
So maybe this is an opportunity for us to start to bring a light into those unknown and lesser known victims.
Yeah. And I mean, would it be then a case to say, would I be on the mark in saying, because of the issue of funding and access or lack of access to funding, that many of these victims, would have brought up issues that needed to be raised, they then at some stage just fall off the tracks because they just can't sustain it, which means then justice is not served. Justice is delayed and never happens.
Absolutely, Ashraf, you're on the mark, because I think, at the end of the day, when it comes to the legal process, it is time and it is money. And I think a lack of resources then leads to the perpetuation of erasure. So I think even the debate that was going on in the courts today concerning the sort of means test and so on regarding the legal family's affordability should also then prompt us to have a conversation about those who hardly are in the same sort of economic position that the legal family are in. So I think, because regardless of where you stand in terms of privilege, legal costs are high in any case. So I think perhaps the conversation then that we should start thinking around is the ways in which the Department of Justice can fund all families that are seeking to sort of get answers regarding their missing family members, or even those family members known to have died, but the record is false around the circumstances of their deaths.
Let's just go back before we wrap up to the opening point about the reopening of the Steve Biko inquest. And I'm thinking people listening in, Steve Biko is well known around the country, around the world, right? But why has this inquest been reopened? Just give us a synopsis of what's happened in the first place here and where we're at.
Okay, so after the TRC concluded, certain lists of recommendations were then forwarded to be handled by the presidency and so on. So, including the investigation of cases that came before the TRC but were not solved. So, Igor's death was one such case that came before the TRC. There was no sort of resolution about what happened, and therefore the TRC recommended that the state then institute investigations on those particular deaths. There were delays surrounding that, and I guess a lack of political will, if we are to be blunt, around basically solving those particular cases. And so 30 years later, the state has decided to go ahead and attempt to reinvestigate these unsolved cases that were before the TRC, and hence the inquests becoming sort of the way in which to do that. And that's pretty much the context for those who might not know.
All right, we'll certainly follow that story, or that journey, and the entire journey of Steve Biko and the many other activists that you referred to, 21 deaths. Zikhona Valela, historian and author of Now You Know How Mapetla Died, the story of a black consciousness martyr. Thank you for joining us. Must get my hands on that book. Sounds like a must read. Thanks for your time, Zikhona. Let's get the news headlines. Here's, it's 4:30. Here's on Dela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. From the news headlines, EFF leader Julius Malema says National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza has failed to show partiality towards Parliament and chose her political party's interests when President Cyril Ramaphosa interdicted the impeachment committee. Fewer than 5 days remain for social grant beneficiaries to migrate from SASSA Gold cards to Postbank Black cards. The deadline is the 31st of August. And 4 South Africans are among hundreds of tourists who remain unaccounted for after flash floods hit the Nepal-Tibet border. 31 people have died, and authorities say the death toll could rise further. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Update from Pretoria. It stays heavy on the M1 southbound. It's a crash that happened a little bit earlier at Rigel Avenue. Traffic is piling all the way back through to about Linwood Road. Certainly Atterbury, you're in the thick of it. Big enough crash to be causing a backlog due to onlookers as well. Northbound coming up from Boerta Avenue through Rigel and on your way towards Gasfontein Road. Joburg's N3 under pressure with an incident, an obstruction around the Heldenace interchange on the southbound track. Rush hour volumes there pushing a queue right back through to about Modderfontein Road. So Edenvale to Germiston, really under some pressure today. Durban, a breakdown at Paradise Valley going out of town. That has been cleared. Backlog into Pinetown has eased up. There is, same as yesterday, a queue coming up the N2 through Spaghetti Junction towards Westwood Mall. It's a change up in the roadworks. That's why it's so heavy for this time of the day. N2 southbound, I'm slung towards Cormarshu, looking quite slow. And then if you're coming out of Cape Town, it's pretty heavy today on the Hospital Bend side of things. It's a crash on the N2 outbound just by the M5. So the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard, M3 Philip Kasana are heavy. The M3 coming in from UCT is bad. And those routes feeding into the N2 like Lisbeck Parkway, like the main road through Observatory, heading towards the highway very slow. Also, no traffic lights in the Rondebosch area, Campground and Palmyra. A lot of traffic around that particular part of town. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
Right, to me, let's talk about, I'm trying to get the right copy here, Rassie and the referees.
Yes, Springbok coach Rassie Rasmus has declined the opportunity to meet with Georgian referee Nika Amashukeli before Saturday's second test against the All Blacks in Cape Town. The Bulk boss insists the current World Rugby protocol, which requires both head coaches to attend any pre-match meeting with the referee, makes the discussions virtually pointless. Erasmus and All Blacks coach Dave Rennie both opted against meeting English referee Matthew Colley before the opening test at Ellis Park, and nothing will change this week. Erasmus believes the meetings were originally intended to prepare referees for the tactical battles that they could expect, but argues that purpose is lost when the opposition is in the room. Meanwhile, flanker Anton Signer has been ruled out of the rest of New Zealand's tour of South Africa after an ankle surgery. Signer was a late withdrawal from All Blacks matchday squad for the first test at Ellis Park after complaining of a swollen ankle, which later was diagnosed as acute inflammatory arthritis, and no replacement has been called for him. In football, Stellenbosch FC captain Sage Stevens says that they go into the game against Golden Arrows this evening in high spirits, following a positive outing the last time out. Stellies are still riding the wave of their 3-1 win over Maruma Gallants in their last match, their first win of the 2026-27 Betway Premiership season. That followed a 3-3 draw with Polokwane City away from home. And Stevens says that scoring 6 goals in 2 matches is a reflection of the hard work that they've been putting in at training.
No, there's a lot of confidence in the camp. Like I said, the team's been, throughout the whole pre-season, we've been working very hard, and it shows with our performances. Though we haven't picked up as many points as we would have liked, in the past 3 games, but scoring 6 goals in 2 games, it just shows the work that goes on behind the scenes. So it's confident. The boys up front are doing very well. I just think we need to balance that a little bit at the back, but like I said, it's work in progress. But to score 3 goals back to back, it just shows, the level of confidence the boys have.
Meanwhile, in netball, Kamogelo Maseko has been named captain of a reshuffled Spar Proteas squad for next month's Africa Netball Cup in Nairobi. South Africa, the defending champions, will compete in the tournament from the 19th to the 26th of September, with several senior players rested after the recent Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And coach Jenny van Dijk says that the tournament will be used to build squad depth ahead of the 2027 Netball World Cup. In cricket, Sri Lanka fought back strongly against India in the second test in Colombo, reaching 199 for 3 at tea on day 4 after being forced to follow on. They trail India by just 14 runs with 7 wickets remaining. Pisandu railed the fight back with an unbeaten 90, with Kamindu Mendes making 55. Now Sri Lanka were earlier bowled out for 290, giving India a first innings lead of 213 runs. And then finally in tennis, New York Mayor Soran Mamdani and the U.S. Tennis Association announced that 1,000 U.S. Open tickets will be sold for $100 each in effort to make the tournament more affordable. The tickets are exclusively available for New York residents who can buy up to 2 each and go on sale from 10 a.m. on a first-come, first basis. The tickets are for matches taking place from the 30th of August to the 8th of September and include seats in the main Arthur Ashe Stadium running through the first quarterfinal stage of the tournament. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
And, someone mentioned the point about the SAFA election. Just say, instead of the election being, postponed indefinitely, which then effectively gives the incumbents a chance to fix things up. If it's that bad, and I don't know if it is that bad, I'm not part of it, but if it is that bad, then there needs to be an interim leadership that takes over SAFA. And then while you have an interim leadership, you then continue with the election proper. That's what happens in a government, right? When there's a motion of no confidence in, say, a president, you then have a caretaker president and you have another election, for example. So to continue with it, if we think it's that bad, just perpetuates the inefficiency, if that is the case. And I'm sort of quoting what others may have said. I don't know enough, accepting that it just seems like something's really strange and wrong in how SAFA is being run.
90 years of conversations, recaptured, relived, and projected. SAfm.
Warm greetings. My name is Wendy Bela from NWUFM. And to SAfm, happy 90th anniversary. You taught us that a voice can hold us together, it can heal, and it can cross borders. Happy 90th anniversary. May your frequency never fade.
From the voices that shaped our past to the conversations defining our future, SAfm celebrates 90 years. In case you missed it,
in 2002, 2003, he took out the lyric of the song and he made us write poems.
Sounds familiar, eh?
Today I'm grateful because we didn't commit crime, we were not stealing, we were just good kids that were listening to reggae but not knowing that we were learning something to stay away from trouble.
That is amazing, Sapi. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing so much.
And also, Sapi, just before you go, this is a wild stab in the dark, right? And he used to speak quite slowly because he used to smoke the herb, didn't he? Was he smoking the herb?
He was.
That was the Alternative Breakfast.
Economic news on SAfm. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Makwe Masilela has always got all the numbers. Makwe, you got something about Bitcoin.
Yes, Ashraf, the guys bought 5 companies in the past year and they already contribute 2.7 billion in revenue and 140 million in trading profit. Remember, it is an international food services company supplying your restaurant, hotels, caterers in over 35 countries. The company has mainly grown through acquiring other companies and deal making rather than organically expanding operations. Revenue up 5%, trading profit up 8.2%, dividend per share up 6.9%, and profits etc. and earnings per share up 6.8%. Ashraf, and an easy come hangover currency markets with investors awaiting inflation reports from major economies, including the U.S. personal consumption expenditure data later in the session. And locally, our July producer inflation is expected to be released tomorrow. And signs of Middle East de-escalation, including efforts to open the Strait of Hormuz between Iran and Oman, supported broader risk sentiment, though a tit-for-tat between Canada and U.S. escalated trade war. Stocks joined bonds to move a bit lower after the latest batch of that U.S. inflation number did little to alter bets that the Fed will raise interest rates before the end is over. Markets continue to be sensitive to any data that could increase the odds of rate hikes. Oil is falling as progress is in talks between Iran and Oman raise expectations that the Strait of Hormuz could reopen, easing shipping disruptions. But unfortunately, the strait will not reopen if the U.S. does not accept their conditions. Brent crude is down 0.7% at $87 a barrel. Gold prices edge lower as investors assess key U.S. inflation data. Yellow metal is on track to end a 3-week winning streak, although some support has come from drop in oil prices that has dropped below $90 a barrel. And as it is, gold is down 0.7% at $4,622. Global markets are mixed, with the JSE up 0.2% and the rand fell 0.3% against the dollar, 15.96, 21.70 against the pound, and 18.60 against the euro.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, it's time to get your thoughts. By the way, we have an hour of the markets coming later on. Let's get your thoughts. You can call in live. You know the number, don't you? 086 000 2032. WhatsApp is 0614 104 107. Now, listen, while we're at it, I mean, you know, it's we're celebrating the 90th year of SAfM through different iterations, various from whatever it was called before to what it is now. And it became SAfM in 1995. I think there's Gordon Reddy who put it together, who got involved, head of news at SABC, and changed all those things and called it SAfM, as in South Africa FM. Now, here's the thought that I want to put to you, right? As a listener of SAfM, what's your fix? Why do you listen to SAfM? Yeah, let me leave it at that. Why do you listen? What's your fix? Right, reaction on the conversations we've been having. Here we are. In fact, we'll get to that just now. Kaya, firstly, in the Eastern Cape. Hi, Kaya.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and thank you for taking my call.
Good afternoon to you. Go for it.
Ashraf, I just want to comment on the sterling job that the Madlanga Commission is displaying before us. And now, my question is for any legal guru, legal expert out there that may be listening to SAfM at this point, that why is not the NPA applying the same methods, especially on high-profile cases? For example, if you can think of the Omotoso case, the guy won on technicalities when, you know, the entire country was feeling otherwise about him winning the case. And then last year, I think there was this other kingpin of the Zamazamas who escaped in the hands of the police. That is also, you know, the public had an interest on that particular case. So I'm wondering why the NPA and the police apply the same methods that the Madlanga Commission is doing to actually get all this information. Because if they were able to do that, I can tell you that the trust that now we do not have on the justice system would not exist.
Well, I agree with you.
That is, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you must also agree that when the Madlanga Commission just started about, say, a year ago, the amount of people who were skeptical about it, it's a waste of time, it's a talk shop, it's a charade, and, you know, who knows what's going to happen next. But I think your point, when you listen to the various role players at the Madlanga Commission, the level of competence and excellence and commitment to detail is just, it is superb, isn't it?
I totally agree with you. I mean, the team that has been assembled is amazing. It's doing it. I mean, all of them, by the way, all of them. And I can tell you now that cannot be difficult also for the state to assemble such a team, especially in fields such as NPA and other, you know.
So quick one. You say, why can't it be, you know, applied to like the NPA and the police? What do you think? Why can't it? Why can't they get it right?
I don't know. That's why I'm saying I'm inviting anyone who's listening out there who's a legal expert. Why they're failing? Why Madlanga Commission within a short space of time is able to dig things that would never have known about had not this commission been established.
I think it's lack of it's less about confidence or competence, more about the actual political will, as we've seen. Kaya, you've put it on the agenda. I am expecting others to respond as well. Thank you for that. Right, let's get to some of the callers.
Hi team, why do I listen to you? Because I feel like I'm part of this great, big, beautiful country of ours, and I learn continuously, and it often teaches me things that I've never thought about, you know, it gives me a different perspective. It's just continuously inspiring, and it's great to feel part of this country, not just, you know, but that's why. You guys are amazing.
Well, you're very kind. Well, and that's why my simple question, why do you listen to SAfM? Open-ended, you come up with your own answers. Thank you for that. I think you're right. There's a massive learning experience every single day of being completely in touch with the feelings of a nation when you connect to SAfM. So thank you for that. Here's the one we had about the presidential ratings.
This is Ilim Makwele from Rotterdam. I give the president the rating of 89%, given the background where he took this country from and where he is now, and where he is taking this country to. So I'm glad the man has taken over. As South Africans, we can see light at the end of the tunnel from where he took over. Departments, corruption, a case in point, it's in fact, corruption is being tackled head on. Madanga is exposing a lot. Thank you, Mr. President. Bye.
Thank you. And you're saying because of that, the president's ratings, in your opinion, goes up. What do you rate Dolly Parton?
Hi, Ashraf. May the spirit of Dolly Rebecca Parton rest in peace. She left us a music, because music is part of therapy. May her soul rest in peace, and we are still going to enjoy her music. Chief.
You're still going to enjoy her music. Absolutely.
Hi, Ashraf. Vusilu Shaba in Durban. The State Security Agency reports directly to the President's office. Therefore, Ramaphosa should stop behaving like a random person at a tavern, spreading unfounded rumors. If he has intelligence that much and much is foreign funded by people who want to destabilize South Africa, he must proceed to bring charges against them of treason. Otherwise, he needs to stop it with this nonsense.
Well, look, I agree with you. We often get people saying, Martin March is foreign funded with no actual facts. And now you're getting the president suggesting that there are sort of international forces at play. And it may or may not be true. But I do agree with you. If you're going to say that and you're the president of the country, best you come up with some answers and tell us exactly why you say what you say. There's a big difference between an opinion of what I think versus an actual.
Team SAFM, led by Ashraf. Ashraf, good afternoon to you, good afternoon to everybody. It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver in Standard Road. May your soul, Dolly, rest in peace. I like that song. It's too late. It remembers me, those guys who are going into Mahlanga Commission. It's too late to change the statement.
Hey, you are a DJ, my bra. You are a DJ.
Hi there, Dolly Parton. I grew up listening to her. There isn't a time that I can think back where she wasn't there. She was just so full, and she was just so real and so full of joy and love. And her and Kenny Rogers and their duet, to this day, there is nobody better. There just isn't. No, she was a remarkable woman, and I can honestly say, being fortunate enough to grow up listening to her while she was still with us and enjoying her and looking up to her, definitely enriched my life. She's going to be missed.
Well, there you
what
are.
A lady.
What a lady. You're talking about Kenny Rogers. Remember that song, Lady? That's another story completely. But what we've heard now is not just her singing, but the contribution to uplifting society, which has been immense, right? After Ashraf and the listeners, in the crisis matter of SAFA, my take, they must form a committee to inquire about irregularities and postpone elections to mellow. So who forms the committee? Think about that.
Young people have always had the power to shape society. For my generation, it's not only about remembering the students of 1976, but also about recognizing that young voices matter and can drive change.
Angola faced a long civil war that lasted decades. A nation divided, people tested. But today, the story has changed. Peace rebuilt, cities rising, a future reclaimed.
This is what we are becoming. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, so This is a message from Radio 2000, right? This Women's Month, Radio 2000 invites you to step away from the ordinary and enjoy an experience created specially for women. Radio 2000, in partnership with the Hearties Boat Company, presents the first ever Her 2000 Femme Fest Getaway, a ladies-only event taking place at Hearties Harbour, Sunday 30th of August, so this Sunday. Now, a gentle cruise across the Hearties waters with Radio 2000 DJs, that's DJ Nkosh, David Mashabella, DJ Sabu, Ismail Abrams and Nati Indamazi Maklaba. The DJ playing memorable sounds in the background, insightful conversations and live performances by Vusi Nova, Giselle Brothers and Encore. All of that for you to get there. Now you need to dress comfortably in Radio 2000 colours, by the way. Red, blue, green and yellow. No heels. Big instruction. Radio 2000. Our music, your memories.
X at SAfmRadio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, so I welcome further thoughts from you. And again, I really appreciate the comments we're getting on some of the big issues. What about the Track Pulse approval rating? 29% for the president, 26% for the government. That's what it is rated as yet. We've also spoken about the reopening of the Steve Biko inquest, but issues of funding for the 21 other deaths and what happens next around that, right? Ongoing stories of, things that just do not ever get resolved, sadly so. Now, what about this? Couples in unregistered customary marriages have until the 31st of August, right? What is it, Monday, to make use of the special registration period introduced by the Department of Home Affairs. As the deadline approaches, the big questions: what are the rights and challenges and protections it offers? The potential challenges couples may also face in proving their marital status. Let's find out more about it with cultural expert Professor Musa Kludu. Prof, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. First of all, give us an overall understanding of this deadline that we've all been given.
Well, the deadline is meant to make sure that all marriages are in the marriage list, because to avoid problems that usually happen when one of the couples dies, and it comes to the issues of inheritance and so on. If it's not written down, it's done only through oral traditions, it becomes easily challengeable. So the move to register all marriages is meant to achieve just that, certainty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Are there concerns? Are there areas that we should be concerned about?
Well, it has happened many times. And I work with some lawyers on some of these issues, where after, say, the husband has died, if he had two wives and the other marriage was not registered, the wife with whom he registered a marriage, even if it's the younger wife, gets preference when it comes to the issues of inheritance. And we've seen families moving in and out of court, trying to settle all these things. And the Home Affairs Register will ensure that, irrespective of whether it's a customary marriage or whatever it is, and as a result also of the changes in the traditional knowledge system. In the past, it was easy to just say, because you are the first wife, you will therefore inherit. But it's no longer as simple as that. So the register will help to establish a database that legal proceedings can refer to if there is a problem.
And now that we've got a deadline that's imminent, people listening in, what should they be doing?
Well, they should be rushing to Home Affairs. I think, Ashraf, this was not advertised enough. Because it's only people have become very much aware of it in the last week or so. Although, of course, it was publicized formally through the Gazette and so on. But in terms of marketing it and explaining the reasons why it is important, I don't think there was enough communication. Having said that, I think there is still time, and I believe maybe Home Affairs will give an extension. But it's a very important move that will bring about a lot of stability within families, and especially extended families as well.
Do you see any challenges right now? I mean, there would have been existing challenges, but do you see challenges coming up once this register is updated?
Well, once the register is updated, Ashraf, I'm saying that if there are disputes, it will be easy to go to the register, and the register will be a determining factor in terms of the status of marriage of the couples under dispute. So that is going to bring a lot of solution. We've seen even with kingdoms and all of that, where people have been going down through oral tradition, saying, okay, we know this and that, but when there are court cases, they usually also want some kind of written evidence that it is so. So it's a very positive step for many people.
So let's just so that we understand it, when we talk about customary marriages, you think of traditional in-court marriages or even in church or other religious forms that need to be recognized within that the church or religious gatherings, but then there's others who are married in court. What's the current status quo now? So between a person married in a church or a person married in court but not in church, and a person who's effectively not married in both. There's just some other agreement as per their own culture and norms. What's the status right now?
Well, if a marriage is registered, for example, when you marry in church, then there is no problem because there is written evidence that you are married. There's a marriage certificate. It's the same as when you went to court and married there through a magistrate or a marriage officer there. The problem starts with these marriages. Some of them, people pay 1 or 2 or 3 lobola cows, cattle, and then they stay together, and then they give birth to children, and later it is discovered that they never married. And when they die, there are always disputes, family disputes, sometimes even leading to death as a result of the uncertainty. So it's going to address that uncertainty. I know also the religious marriages is also under consideration now because that's the 4th category of marriages. But under customary law, it has been seen to be a good thing that some kind of written contract must happen before the actual sitting together or staying together or whatever takes place, so that there must be some evidence in the case when there are disputes in future. And usually it happens when one of the couples passes on.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I think a lot may come out beyond the deadline into other issues that could be raised even after that. Professor Musa Xulu, cultural expert, thanks for that. What we need to know for right now, the deadline is 31st of August, so it's imminent for couples in unregistered customary marriages to have their marriages registered, to make use of the special registration period introduced by the Department of Home Affairs. So deadline imminent. You need to make it happen right now. Okay, let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. Motion of no confidence debate against Diza and South Africans among those missing after Nepal flash floods. Good day to you. EFF leader Julius Malema says National Assembly Speaker Tokata Diza has failed to show partiality towards Parliament and chose her political party's interests when President Cyril Ramaphosa interdicted the impeachment committee. Malema's tabled a motion of no confidence debate against Diza that's taking place in the National Assembly. The parties argue that she failed to discharge her constitutional responsibilities with independence, impartiality and the integrity of a presiding officer of Parliament when she didn't challenge the interdict to halt the impeachment committee's proceedings. Leading the debate, Malema's called on parties to support their motion to remove Diza.
Ms. Diza is not fit to preside over a legislature whose role and constitutional responsibility she is not willing to defend. We call on all political parties to appreciate this, that she has exhibited partisanship at a critical moment in our democracy, when we ought to be showing that no one is above the law, and this includes the president, no matter how powerful the political party that deployed him to that office. Ms. Togodi Diza must go, and she must go now.
Swimming South Africa has been plunged into a leadership crisis, with its president Alan Fritz and CEO Shaun Adrenser being provisionally suspended by the World Aquatics Integrity Unit. Their provisional suspension follows potential violations of the World Aquatics Integrity Code, including abuse of power and the provision of false information and fake documents. It's believed the collapse of Swimming SA's Franschhoek High Performance Centre, for which the Federation received approximately 111 million rand in funding, is at the centre of the investigation. More than 50 million rand was reportedly spent, but the site has fallen into disrepair. Fewer than 5 days remain for social grant beneficiaries to migrate from SASSA Gold cards to Postbank Black cards. The deadline is the 31st of August. Postbank says there are still beneficiaries who need to complete the migration process, and the deadline will not be extended. While grant payments will still be made after the deadline, beneficiaries will need to migrate before they can access those funds. Postbank's Tammy Tele.
We are now sitting at over 1.8 million who have successfully converted, to the Postbank Black Card. So thank you to them for responding. We are now left with just over 80,000. I think it's a natural case of people leaving things to last minute. That's as simple as we can state, because the communication has been happening for the last 6 months, consistently. And we think maybe people has prioritized other activities over the card replacement. But what we're saying is that the time has now run out. It is important that they use the 4 days that are left to come and collect their cards.
The Cape Winelands District Municipality says they're expecting a much earlier onset of the summer fire season and have started making preparations to deal with the expected wildfires. Firefighters managed to contain a large veld fire that broke out near Montague yesterday. Cape Winelands Municipal Mayor Elna van Schlicht.
The fire experience yesterday and early this morning shows us that we can expect a much earlier onset. In turn, this will add pressure to all of our resources, us as an organization, for the agricultural sector and those it employs. The biggest risk, however, is the risk to and effect of fires on our natural spaces, which will be profound.
4 South Africans are among hundreds of tourists who remain unaccounted for after flash floods hit the Nepal-Tibet border. 31 people have died, and authorities say the death toll could still rise further. Correspondent Hapunia reports.
Hundreds are missing after flash floods hit the Rasuva district of Nepal. It's a mountainous district in the north that borders Tibet, and it's a popular destination for many tourists. The Nepal Tourism Board has confirmed that more than 300 travelers were missing. Of them, 4 are South African nationals. Now, videos posted online by police teams show a huge gust of water rushing towards multi-story buildings along a river. The flood water is sweeping away a bridge and destroying houses in just a few minutes. Armed forces and paramilitary troops are now involved in rescue operations, and helicopters are being used to pull people to safety. In some of the worst hit areas, the water levels are so high that officials say helicopters have not been able to land there. Neha Punia, SABC News, New Delhi.
The top story, the EFF leader Julius Malema says the Speaker of the National Assembly has failed to show partiality towards Parliament and shows her political party's interests when President Ramaphosa interdicted Parliament's impeachment committee. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Coase.
In sports this hour, CAF Women's Champions League qualification race underway. Root demands higher standards from England players, and PGA Tour to end 2028 season with new match play tournament. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, I tell you, we have so many issues. There's a crisis regarding, well, the Eastern Cape and ambulances, and it's hugely problematic. We'll talk about that to Tembisa Vidboy, not quite now, just now, in a few minutes' time, right? There's also another issue that we must touch on about the police officer probing the former Knysna Mayor and ANC Ward Councillor Aubrey Tsengwa's murder. We must touch on that just now. But let me just invite you again, because of SAFM at 90, why do you listen to SAFM? Yeah, why? What's the pulling power? You can call in live. You can WhatsApp us as well, text or voice note. You can also tweet us, and you can even post on Facebook too. If you just tag SAfmRadio and do tag me. We will certainly pick it up. Okay, let's and if you're listening for the very first time, I need to know. I mean, I need to formally welcome you to the show. So when you do call in or send us a WhatsApp voice note, tell me that as well. 086 000 2032 to call in, say that number, and then WhatsApp, it's 0614 104 107.
Before there was the SAFM you know today, there was the English service, there was Radio South Africa, Radio South Africa, and there was a country going through extraordinary change.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Raphael.
From the darkness of apartheid,
I have to inform honourable members.
through the states of emergency,
Earlier, it was reported an explosion had occurred at an ESCOM.
through the release of Nelson Mandela,
Comrades and fellow South Africans, I greet you all.
through the birth of a democratic South Africa.
As we know, elections do not create change, they create only the opportunity for change.
The conversations continued, and in 1995, a new SAFM emerged. A new country, a new voice, a new chapter. This August, SAFM looks back at the journey that brought us here. The voices, the moments, the people, the history. 90 years of conversation, a nation story, our shared future. SAFM turns 90 from 1 August. SAFM, the conversation continues. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we start with an update from Pretoria. The M1 South crash near Rigel Avenue is being cleared, but there is just a sluggishness about that traffic as it comes slowly from Linwood Road as that backlog moves away. Northbound fairly slow, Buerta Avenue up towards Atterbury. Two big delays getting out of the city centre heading north today from Pretoria Central. Eskia and Pathleli up to Putco from Rubberstad CBD, and also Steve Biko on that run into Gazina. Very heavy backlogs. Paul Kruger a quick way through that area if you're looking to beat it. Now, the Mike 1 North in Joburg crash before Woodmead Drive, heavy coming out of Sandton. The N3 South obstruction at Heldenace is being cleared, but it's really just sort of normal busyness coming from Linbro Park on the way down today. The N1 South from Buccleuch down to Winnie Mandela looking quite slow as well. Crossing to Durban, we've got some pressure on the N2 southbound, just coming from Mshlanga down towards the Kwamashu exit. Looks like a possible breakdown in amongst the roadworks there. Yeah, just confirming that there is a breakdown. M4 busy towards Virginia Airport, both north and southbound. Getty Road, once you get over Connaught Bridge onto Chris Harney, outbound up into Durban North is busy, and there's a crash in on the M13. It's eastbound near Maytime Stores. So coming through from Hillcrest slow, but motorists heading from Kloof, the top of Fields Hill, heading towards Hillcrest, also getting caught in that as well. And then Cape Town, a really busy run out of the city centre today. Crash still with us on the N2 outbound at the M5, Black River Parkway junction. That is pushing traffic queues out on Nelson Mandela Boulevard. Philip Costana via Hospital Bend, the M3 inbound is bad, and then feeding in routes like Lisbeck Parkway and the main road through Observatory, very busy as well. Also the M5 south looking heavy, Kubo Getache down to the split to the N2 outbound. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. Every generation has a story. Every generation has questions. Every generation has a voice. For 90 years, SAFM has been part of the conversation. This August, we listen back to the voices that brought us here. We celebrate the people who shaped our journey, and we listen for the voices that will shape what comes next. including the launch of a new annual SAFM property. This Women's Month, we are in search of an SAFM woman. 4 extraordinary women, 4 extraordinary journeys. One question: what does it mean to be an SAFM woman? SAFM 90 years. Women, a new voice. 90 years of conversation. A nation story, our shared future. From 1 August, SAFM. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
I'll tell you what, bluntly, we are getting far too many of these type of stories from a position of a country of political tolerance to a position of intolerance where just about every day somebody or the other gets knocked off. And one may say, are the questions straight murder, as in robbery, but there has to be evidence to suggest no, these are people being shafted away for reasons only those that did it will understand or know. Now, here's the latest story. A police captain investigating former Knysna Mayor and ANC Ward Councillor Aubrey Tsengwa's murder has been gunned down in a shootout with a suspect in the early hours of this morning. Let's find out more about what happened and fill in the details to Brigadier Novella Botelwa, SAPS Western Cape spokesperson. Thank you for joining us on the National Pulse.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Another terrible story, right? And we just have far too many of these. But what has happened? What do you know that you can tell us?
Sad day for the South African Police Service in the Western Cape. Actually, for the SAPS nationally, in that we lost one of our most competent police officials in the captain that we lost in the early hours of this morning, who was deployed in the Garden Route, Knysna to be precise. You would recall, Ashraf, that in the past week, we saw incidents of shootings where we lost 3 members, one of those being the former mayor of Knysna, who was currently a councillor, and a day thereafter, we also lost 2 other people. As part of the intervention from the SAPS management in the province, there were forces that were deployed in the Knysna area. And unfortunately, of the team that was sent down, including serious violent crime detectives, there was a combat team, there were intelligence operatives, local police to augment what local police were doing. And unfortunately, in the early hours of this morning, after 3, when they were executing an operation, one of our own, in the captain that was leading a team of TRT members, was shot in an informal settlement on Uniondale Road in Knysna, in an informal settlement called Sievendelaan. And it is a very unfortunate situation. I must say that the SAPS in the province is bleeding, but obviously, we're looking forward because we still have a task at hand, that of ensuring that the communities of this province and the country are safe.
Well, I mean, terrible story. First, again, condolences again to the person who's been deceased, and I think to the behalf of, to the entire SAPS, right? Let's then talk about, I mean, what do you understand what is actually transpired here? It's not just simply someone being killed. Something has led to it.
Ashraf, you probably may be familiar with the communication that we've been sending to the media, and there were court appearances, the latest being yesterday, after the shootings that claimed the lives of the councillor, former mayor, and 2 other gentlemen. One was Amandla Matiwane, the other one Amandla Kyololo. There were investigations that ensued and that led to the arrests. Now, what happened this morning, this integrated team of the South African Police Service was following up intelligence about firearms at a particular location. It was at that time when they were following this up that they came under fire, there was a shootout, and sadly, we lost the captain. But on the scene, I may add that the suspect who was shooting at the police also died. As I indicated, that it was a shootout, and we managed to recover 2 firearms.
And I mean, my my intro to the conversation was about not so much robbery as we would think of it typically, but in fact, people being gotten rid of, whether it's because of political rivalry or because of what they may know. I mean, what can you tell us about that?
Look, I would rather leave that to the investigations because most of that is before courts. But obviously, the death of 3 people in a place that is under normal circumstances, a tourist attraction, very, very pristine area of Naisna, when that happens, that sends shockwaves. Obviously, the intervention had to be like that. But in terms of the motive, Ashraf, I hope you will respect the fact that I would rather have that emerging before a court of law, because speaking about it before it is presented before court could actually compromise the work that has already been done. But I need to agree with you that the serious problem that we have is gun violence. Day in and day out, we get to hear these horrific stories of people who die, and most of them are shot. And
Absolutely.
That is a matter that the police must deal with.
But it seems like at this point in time, us as a country, we are incapable of dealing with the issue of gun-related violence, both for those who are registered and then still use the gun recklessly, and those who are unregistered, gun owners, right, if I can call it that, who then go about and using it for their nefarious purposes. Either way, this conversation we've been having like for 10, 15 years, it's the same old conversation. Something has to change, and dramatically so.
I agree with you. Something has to shift because it's not abating, Ashraf. It continues. Today we may be talking about the captain that we've lost. Yesterday we were talking about someone else. Tomorrow it will be another person. And sadly, when we do our reflections, on average in this province, we confiscate per week between 25 and 30 firearms. The question is that does not translate to there being lesser incidents of gun-related violence. Instead, we seem to be picking up more of this. So that's why I say to you, there needs to be a shift in a way, because it is quite obvious that it is not only about boots on the ground. It is not just about police conducting crime prevention operations, getting the guns out. There is a deeper issue to it that needs a holistic approach.
Well, completely agree with you. And yet, sadly, it does continue. But let's leave it at that on that sad note. Brigadier Novella Botelwa, the SAPS Western Cape spokesperson. Thank you for your time, and I expect reaction from the Pulse community, which means you, right after this.
One day is one day, but maybe today is that day. It's 90 days of winning and 90 minutes of drama on SABC1. Catch Skim Sam at 7:30, Uzalo now at 8 p.m. and Generations The Legacy at 8:30. Spot the daily show code on screen and enter via WhatsApp or USSD. It could be you. Win airtime and data daily, 10,000 Rand weekly, or the 100,000 Rand grand prize. T's and C's apply. Watch and win with SABC1.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
90 years of conversations. Recaptured, relived, and projected. SAFM.
My name is Musimana Happy Mofosi. I hail all the way from Mafikeng in the Northwest Province. Congratulations to you guys on the incredible 90 years of informing, educating, and inspiring South Africans. Thank you for being a trusted voice that has connected generations through news, meaningful conversations.
From the voices that shaped our past to the conversations defining our future, SAFM celebrates 90 years. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's get on to another issue. So, we know what we have an ambulance for. You know the purpose of it, right? And when the story goes that emergency medical services, or workers in this case in the Nelson Mandela area, they talk about the region as a system on life support, specifically relating to the ambulance crisis, then you do know we have a problem. With me is Tembisa Witboy, Health and Other Services Personnel, Trade Union of South Africa's Eastern Cape Provincial Labour Relations Organizer. Thank you for engaging us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. Now, when we talk about life support, tell me what are we referring to here? Why do we say that?
We're talking about a system that is enshrined in terms of the Constitution, that says that each and every citizen has a right to health care, and it means that the government then ensures that citizens have got a system. There needs to be a system that is stable in order to save a life.
Okay. Having said that, the system is not stable. Then what's the position right now?
The system, and I hear you saying that it's on life support.
Well, I'm quoting what others have said. Yeah, I'm quoting.
Yes, and I'm simply saying that the system has collapsed. The system is dead. Because we're facing a situation where in Nelson Mandela, where you've got a population of about 1.5 million, and in terms of the regulations, where you're supposed to be having about 150 ambulances on the road, because the ratio that is there is 1 ambulance into 10,000 population, and currently we have 4 ambulances in operation. 4 ambulances in operation.
And how much how many should you have for the?
We're supposed to be having 150.
I mean, that's a disaster, completely.
It is, and ambulances are there. So Nelson, one who is familiar with Nelson Mandela would understand that it's divided into 2, which is your Karieha, which is Utnake, and you have your Kabeha, which is Ibai. You in Ibai you have about 10 ambulances, but it's like you're having 1 ambulance on the basis that other 9 ambulances are just empty boxes that do not have stretchers, that do not have ECG machines, that do not have, that are just empty. 1 ambulance that is in operation. And in the Karieha area, you've got 3 ambulances. And we've been raising these issues with the Eastern Cape Department of Health, and it's falling into deaf ears. Now, when one calls an ambulance, that affects because a citizen will call an ambulance, a call center, and an ambulance will not come on the basis that there's no ambulance to come. So our members are sitting there and they do not know what to do.
How do you think we got to this situation?
We got into this situation on the basis that we have leaders that do not care, leaders that are not in touch with their communities, leaders that are corrupt, because if you go into there's things like disappearance of stretchers into the system, where stretchers will just disappear and there's no one that there's no consequence management, there's no accountability, there's no investigation in terms of that. So we've got management that really does not care, and that is just there to earn a salary at the end of the month. That does not care about a human dignity, on the basis that they know that at the end of the day, the system does not affect them. They have a medical aid, and if they are sick, they're not dependent on the public system. They are dependent on the private system. So an ambulance that is fully equipped will come in and save his or her life. So we've got that particular system where our leaders just don't care.
Okay. Now, what do you think? And I mean, we all have our own ideas about how we got here. How then, practically, realistically, you're not you're not the minister, but practically, realistically, considering what some may say about budget constraints, how do we fix this very quickly?
We can simply, Ashraf, simply fix this on the basis that if there's willingness to transform the system itself, because what we've been saying is that the budget within the health is one of the departments that is given the most budget each and every year. But you do not see any improvement, and you begin to ask yourself, where are the funds going? And when you track and you're checking, it's going into, you'll find out that in December there will be a skills development that is held in SAMRadio. There's a training that is held in SAMRadio. The service provider is appointed from Joburg to provide, some training on how the constitution works right in December. So you can see that there is money. So the only thing that needs to do we need to do is to transform the department, and transforming the department administratively, because in a true sense you can't begin to make a change or a transformation in a department with the same people that have failed the department. So we're simply saying as a Hospesa that the funds are there. If you're not having administrative officials that are not willing to change the system, then change those. There needs to be consequence management so that you are able to transform this particular system.
Okay. Well, thank you for your input, Tambisa Vidboy from Health and Other Services Personnel Trade Union of South Africa's Eastern Cape Provincial Labour Relations Organizer. And those numbers are telling in the Eastern Cape, in the one region, 4 ambulances working. The target should be 150. And by the way, let me just tell you that Dr. Matandeki Kamlashi is the acting head of department at the Eastern Cape Department of Health, and the doctor will be talking to Joanne Joseph about the ambulance crisis, tomorrow. So responding to the union's concerns. I mean, there's the unions and there's the other reality. Let's see what comes out of that. There's also your reality. And here's a quick response immediately, because I'd love that. If you're from the Eastern Cape, what can you tell me about your ambulances? Is the ambulances in a state of, well, as some have said, dying?
Hi, Ashraf. I'm listening to your guest with a lot of concern. I live in Gqeberha, and it's really concerning to hear that the whole ambulance system has collapsed here. And I can tell you, I think it is because the people involved here have been stealing the system blind. As the guest said, she reckons that people have been stealing the stretchers and probably the equipment out of the ambulances and selling it off. So really the police should be involved here, and she's spot on when she says the leaders don't care. That is really the fact of the matter here, is that nobody's got any oversight of this, and nobody cares about our people on the ground, people who need ambulances and medical attention. Thanks, Mike in Gqeberha.
Well, thanks for that, Mike. I must say, I mean, we can't dismiss that's what you say, Mike, or with the guest. There are just too many examples of not like a broken window. It's almost like, I don't know, think about a house, right? And in that house, you've got windows, all sides, okay? And every window, not only are the windows broken, but the window panes have been removed everywhere. That's the level of broken infrastructure we're experiencing in our country right now. And whatever the story is, how did we get to this disastrous situation is a big question. And the fact that we're still having an academic debate about it, it also, well, it's just bizarre. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we need to do it very, very quickly. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The DA says they do not believe the threshold has been met for the removal of the Speaker of the National Assembly, Toka Dadiza. Build 1 SA will be contesting 24 municipalities across 5 provinces in this year's local government elections. And the Office of Nepal's Prime Minister has announced that 95 bodies have been recovered so far after flooding that has left hundreds of people missing. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
OUTsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We've been keeping a focus on the M1 in Pretoria today. Earlier crash at Rigel Avenue's been cleared a while. The backlog, the heavy backlog's really made its way through. A little bit slow coming away from Pretoria towards Rigel, but largely a non-event. Northbound, a little bit of sluggishness in that area just due to volume. Big traffic heading out of Pretoria on SGM Pathlele this afternoon. Traffic light problems around the Vaderhof Road and Steve Biko up into Casino. Some traffic light issues there. That is also a big delay coming out of that side of central Pretoria. Allendale Road from the Midrand area across to Carstenoff Clinic on your way towards Mastiff Road. Lots of traffic lights down. That's very slow today. And the highway network's generally fairly standard around Joburg. The exception, the R21 North, a crash after the Benoni exit if you're leaving the airport on way to Pretoria. That is being held up. Durban side today, collision on the M13 at Gillet's a little bit earlier. That's causing a delay from Fields Hill heading across in towards the Hillcrest area. N2 North still jammed up to Spaghetti Junction. Looks a little bit like it does every morning on that run north from the M7, and the M7 away from Rossborough up the hill towards the Belleville Road exit. That looks really slow as well today. Umgeni Road out through Springfield Park and Inanda Road out to the N2 through Springfield towards Parlock looking busy as well. Cape Town, earlier crash on the N2 outbound just past Hospital Bend near the M5 has finally been cleared. It's left a backlog of traffic coming out of town on Nelson Mandela Boulevard. That's heavy out towards Hospital Bend. And main road through Observatory towards the N2 busy as well. Campground Road through Newlands very slow today, and there's a backlog quite heavy on Marine Drive, queuing up through Pardon Island and again through Milnerton. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Rob, sorry to do this via you, but it's important for the conversation going on at the moment. There's a caller that called in about the lack of ambulances in Nelson Mandela Bay. There are 41 ambulances currently idle for the past 6 years in Gauteng. Just tell Ashraf that, please.
Well, you've just told me. Thank you for that. 41 idle. Really, we need to do a whole state of the ambulance report. 41 idle. Oh, my goodness. All right, deciding to ignore the DIY instructions may only cost you a few hours, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With OUTsurance, 48-year-old Adam saves, well, the number's huge, 1,803 Rand a month on his 2020 Audi Q3. So switch to OUTsurance. You too could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's and information available online.
OUTsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, to me, lots to consider. Well, besides SAFA and where they're going and the rugby team ahead of this weekend's game, you've got a story about the CAF Women's Champions League, right?
Yes, the race is on to qualify for this year's CAF Women's Champions League with 8 teams set to compete in the main tournament. Regional qualifiers are underway across Africa. In Southern Africa, Mamelodi Sundowns ladies and Zambia's Zesco Ndola girls are the favourites ahead of the COSAFA final in Gaborone on Saturday. The UNIF qualifiers will take place in Tunisia, and that is from the 1st to the 7th of September, while Cameroon will host the UNIFAC qualifiers on dates that are still to be confirmed. But defending champions as far, and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies are the tournament's most successful teams with 2 titles each. Meanwhile, the Betway Premiership continues today with 4 matches, all kicking off at 7:30. Polokwane City hosts Milford, while Mamelodi Sundowns face Amazulu. Sundowns hoping to maintain their challenge near the top of the table. But Amazulu will be hoping to cause an upset. Golden Arrows taking on Stellenbosch, while Richards Bay welcome Kaizer Chiefs as they look to continue their unbeaten league start. Now, the 4 matches could bring significant changes to the Premiership standings, but looking forward to all the action this evening. Then, SAFA have admitted that it has taken longer than expected to update Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie on plans to introduce VAR technology. McKenzie has criticized the association for failing to roll out VAR this season, despite providing 30 million rand in funding in April. He has given SAFA 21 working days to provide an update or return the money. And SAFA officials told Parliament yesterday that the funds have been received and are being kept in a separate account. They say the money has not yet been used because several policy and regulatory steps still need to be completed. Elsewhere, Tottenham Hotspur have agreed a season-long loan deal for Manchester City forward Omar Marmoush, with an obligation to buy him for £60 million next year. Marmoush is set to undergo a medical before completing the move. He would become Spurs' second signing from City this week, despite the club spending more than £300 million this summer. In terms of cricket, England captain Joe Root has laid down strict standards for his players following the latest off-field controversy involving the team. Fast bowler Braden Cos has been dropped from the second test against Pakistan at Lords after an incident at a nightclub in Derby. Now, Root says that he is frustrated by the situation and held a strong meeting with the players. Fast bowler Josh Tang says that Root made it clear that representing England is a privilege and players must behave professionally. Finally, netball, Kamkhelo Maseko has been named captain of a reshuffled Spar Proteas squad for next month's Africa Netball Cup in Nairobi. South Africa, who are the defending champions, will compete in the tournament from the 19th to the 26th of September, with several senior players rested after the recent Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And coach Jenny van Dijk says that the tournament will be used as a chance to build squad depth ahead of the 2027 Netball World Cup. With that said, it is a wrap from my side.
Thanks for that, Jamia. Lots of exciting things happening this weekend. Again, I noticed just a big rush for rugby tickets. I mean, I get it, it's all sold out. That's what I think. But there's always someone just hoping they can get a ticket to Cape Town Stadium.
Moving to a bigger office space can be expensive. Thanks to My Way Business Insurance, I get to save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month. Plus, I get My Business Assist, which helps me with marketing, legal, and admin services. Saving money while growing my business is a great win for me.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your monthly premiums. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 today for a quote. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
90 minutes, a lifetime of emotion. One tackle can change a season. One goal can make history. One match can bring an entire nation to its feet. The world's greatest football league is back. Experience the skill, the passion, and the rivalries that captivate millions across the globe. The Premier League returns Saturday, 22 August from 3:30 on S3. And wherever you are, stream it live on SABC+.
SAfm. You all know that image, Hector Peterson being carried in, that other man's arms. And I'd like to say that I'm personally very grateful, to see such bravery, such courage in the face of danger.
From Algiers to the desert sands, culture lives. Rai music, Amazigh heritage, tradition and identity, standing tall. Algeria does not bend, it stands.
In every grain of sand, in every voice, there is resilience. Algeria, the giant of the Sahara.
This is what we are becoming. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAfm. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, the SAfm market update comes up, 6 to 7 to set the scene. Jimmy Muyaha, what have we got? Celsi and Blue Label.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, Blue Label Telecoms, the company that previously was the sole owner of Cell C prior to Cell C's unbundling, they reported their results for their financial year end, and the Cell C numbers have had an impact on their business. Both entities are, of course, listed on our Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So we're going to speak to the co-CEO of Blue Label, Mark Levy, and get a sense of how it is that they fared from their business's perspective and what they had to contend with as an entirely separate business. Then we have a conversation taking a look at the Ephora investment that the PIC had previously put in about 750 million rand into that business at the moment, potentially undergoing liquidation, as there are some concern. There's been a liquidation application rather that's been brought forward in front of the courts for that. We're going to take a look at that and try and make sense of what's happening there. Then we have a conversation taking a look at Money Smart Week South Africa. This is an initiative that is the product of the National Consumer Financial Education Committee through National Treasury and various stakeholders. We're going to take a look at this and see what this is all about and what's happening this week. And we also have a conversation with the team at Allan Gray, taking a look at how it is that they manage risk at times where markets are bullish. And as always, on a Wednesday, we have an executive lounge conversation. We speak to to a board member of the International Women's Forum of South Africa and get to know her a little bit better beyond her daily responsibilities. Before we get to those conversations, though, a sense of the market movements throughout the day. It's been a rather mixed set of numbers, especially from an equities point of view. Most of the equities in the green. The ASX in Sydney down about a third, the only loser in Asian markets. European markets all in the green. US markets, the Nasdaq down about 0.1%, a little over 0.1% at the moment. Local markets kind of finished flat as well. The all share was down a single basis point, the top 40 down 4 basis points. This is because resource stocks were down a third, financials were down a tenth, but industrials were up 0.44%. And so there was a marginal movement as some of these markets offset each other. The gold price still above $4,600 a fine ounce, ever so slightly. It just dipped below that just before you and I went on air, but I see it's back above that level. Platinum, $1,853 a fine ounce. Palladium still unmoved, $1,330 odd dollars. The Brent crude price still below $90 a barrel, ever so slightly, but we are still dangerously close to that level. The rand, 15 rand 97 cents against the US dollar. I saw 15 rand 93 at one stage earlier today, so a little weaker today, but still below 16 rand, and that's an all-important level to stay below for us. 1 British pound would cost you 21 rand 71 cents. 1 euro 18 rand 61. 1 Bitcoin slightly softer, $77,900 or $78,000 a coin, 1.24 million rands, about 20,000 rands cheaper with that stronger and firmer rand. I've got Otto 1890's David Shapiro on markets a little later on. I want to get his thoughts around some of the market movements and perhaps what he's looking forward to. We know that we've got that all-important Jackson Hole Symposium taking place in the US this week on Friday, so I want to get his thoughts around that and perhaps how that could influence some of the market movements. But we'll be back with these and other conversations just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that. Enjoy your show, and that's followed by an hour of sports. Yeah, it is. And then, then the rest of the team comes up, from 8 o'clock with lots of current affairs talk up to midnight. And we do it all again overnight and tomorrow morning, all year on SAfm. My big question that I asked you, and it's a very simple but profound question, considering we are celebrating SAfm at 90 and we've had different voices. So right now, I'm not even talking about the past, right now, like now, why do you listen to SAfm? You tell me.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Questions. I wonder what the excuses in Mthatha. Ambulances are plenty there, but they never come even at night. 112 doesn't work properly. There was another story, by the way, I can't remember it. You've got it where you may have it. If someone calling in to an emergency number, 10111, and they either didn't answer or they botched the whole response, and as a result, people either lost their lives or they were critical. Something happened. I'm very sketchy, so I can't say more, but you may know. This happened a few days ago. So calling into the emergency number, but the systems were just so poor, so they couldn't even respond effectively.
Ashraf, I'm a resident of Port Elizabeth, Sandile speaking. This ambulance situation, you called for an emergency to these ambulances. They tell you that they're not able to make it to your emergency unless they are escorted by police. So your person sits there dying while they wait for a van to come through. Now you can imagine when the police station has got no cars and the ambulances are not available, how people are supposed to live. Sandile Kabech.
Well, there we are. Well, do I have to add to that? I don't even think I need to. We just hear far too much of that.
Afternoon, Asraf. Asraf, the problem at SAFA is nothing but Jenny Jordan and his team. Jenny Jordan don't want to leave power because of all the stealing that he done when he is the president of SAFA. Those who are saying that election must be postponed, that is what Jenny Jordan is planning, for the elections to be postponed so he can continue stealing and running SAFA like his private home. So I think it's time for FIFA, if possible, to intervene, and then we cannot trust the ANC. We cannot trust the Sport Ministry of South Africa because it is compromised. So the problem at SAFA is Danny Jordan. Let's not sugarcoat anything about that. Listener in Cape Town.
Well, I don't know if anybody else is sugarcoating it. I don't think so. But listen, I mean, about saying, Danny is stealing. I mean, let's be clear. And remind me, has he been convicted of a theft? And if he hasn't, you can't just say stealing. You could actually say there's been allegations about mismanagement, perhaps, but to actually say stealing when he's not been convicted of that, you can't say that. Norman in Polokwane, go for it, Norman.
Hi, Ashraf. Good evening.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Good talking to you too. Ashraf, 2 points that I just quickly want to reflect upon. One, I want to express my condolences to Western Cape SAPS for the loss of a member there, and strength to the SAPS family. Brigadier Otelo, thank you very much for sending a message, and we pray that the safety of SAPS police will be a priority at all times. A loss of one police officer is one too many. Secondly, I want to reflect on the question that you have raised. Why SAFM?
Yeah.
Look, Ashraf, my family is SAFM fans. We don't listen to another station except SAFM. And let me give you a little background in a second. I was still doing my first year in the university. One of my lecturers during reflections in the class, he asked students, which radio station do you listen to? Then I make mention of a local radio station. He then says, no, this can't be right. I cannot have a student who listens to 80 or 90% of his time to a local radio station. The radio to go to is SAFM. And he made mention that this is where you're going to improve your language, and that's where you are going to engage on current issues. And indeed, SAFM is still keeping the promise. And we listen to SAFM in my family.
Well,
thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you for the teacher. Much appreciated. That's all I can say. And keep on listening. Norman, nice call indeed, right? Thank you for that. Right. Well, we'll pick up more comments from you as well as WhatsApp thoughts after this.
Good evening, South Africa.
Welcome to the special TV1 newscast. South Africans are flocking to the polls today in one of the country's most historic referendums.
For 90 years, South Africans have shared the moments that matter most, the stories that informed us, the music that moved us, the victories that united us, the voices we'll never forget. Here's to the many stories still to come, celebrating 90 years of SABC.
Move with purpose from the first to the final job in a Hino 700 truck tractor. Available in either 410 or 450 horsepower. It gives you the flexibility to choose the right amount of power to suit your unique fleet and logistical needs. The Hino 700 truck tractor comes with a 6-year drivetrain warranty and 6-year service plan from as little as 1.9 million rand excluding VAT. Contact your nearest Hino dealer today to keep you moving. Offer available while stocks last. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Looking for exclusive content, live events, and special broadcasts like the Madlanga Commission? Then connect to the all-new SAfm Connect stream. The Madlanga Commission, live and uninterrupted from 9:30 Monday to Friday. SAfm Connect brings you more of the conversations that matter. Listen anytime, anywhere by visiting connect.safm.co.za or stream directly on SABC Plus at sabc-plus.com. SAfm Connect. More conversations, more access. There's much more coming. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get more calls. Mosquitoes in Umlazi. Hello.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Mosquito from Umlazi, but
Yeah,
in
good.
Cape Town.
Okay,
I just
got
want to
it.
comment on Madlanga.
Yeah.
Ashraf, I would like to thank Jerem Kwanazi for the statement on July. Listening today, the way Senzo Mkhu's name is coming up, I just don't understand why Cyril Ramaphosa keeps this person on the payroll. This person is supposed to be fired. Torashi was fired. For a few scandals was fired. I don't know why Ramaphosa is keeping this guy. And if you look at the way, I almost fall off my chair. The way my father saying, no, Karim lend me 20 million, Maumeda lend me 5 million. It's like they're talking about 100 rand and 200 rand. It's for the first time I heard about the car called Pakani. I've never heard a car called Pakani. This guy were living large. They were living large. They spend our money and they don't care. The way corruption is so entrenched. I don't know. But I thank the Madlanga Commission. I thank what they've done, and I just hope that the recommendations will be no stone must not be unturned. Maumela,
Okay.
I'm eagerly waiting for Maumela to be called.
All right. Okay, Mosquito, you've made your point. Waiting for Mamela to be called up. Yeah, that's the Madlanga Commission. Here's more on the emergency services story.
Ashraf, any normal South African knows that if you want emergency services, you have to pay for them. Whether it be you are in danger, private security, you need an ambulance, you have to pay the likes of Netcare. I mean, the government can never offer you that at all. They've honestly just dismally failed when it comes to that. You have an emergency, unfortunately, it comes with the price in South Africa.
Well, and that's the start. That's the reality that, in fact, it should not be like that. It doesn't happen in many other countries. Here, you have no money, you're broke, but you have to make a plan to pay for something you can't afford to try and get the health care that if you don't pay, you will then put your life at risk. I hear that story every day.
Hi, Ashraf Ndogozo here. The reason why I listen to SAfM, it started when I was in varsity and I used to travel during the school holidays from Cape Town to Newcastle. And listening to SAfM, I found better than listening to music because my mind was constantly engaged. So that kept me awake during the long journey. So really that's where my relationship, if you will, with SAfM started. Thank you for the great show.
Well, wonderful. And thank you for staying connected to this long-distance journey, because it is a long journey, and the longer the better in this case here, right? Good afternoon. There's a long message. Keep the messages short. Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Maribu Seng from the Northern Cape. It's shocking to hear that an ambulance service can be allowed to be so depleted without a consequence. How can such a situation be tolerated? Where is the oversight? Are there no audits? Is there anyone who asks questions when ambulances do not respond to calls by people in need? Is anyone counting these and other pertinent questions? The country needs a Madlanga Commission in nearly all areas of service delivery in our country. We need a root and branch change in the type of people who are employed to serve the population of the country. The current culture of acceptance of poor service and lack of accountability must be eradicated as an urgent priority. Well, I hear you, and in fact I said so a few weeks ago, I remember, and I posted it on social media. When did we as South Africans sign up for a contract that says we will accept mediocre service? When did we all agree to say, mediocre service, shop, no problem, carry on going? Like, when did we sign up for that? Because in reality, we have signed up for that, if you know what I'm saying.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Great show. You know, I had the same issue with regards to the government ambulance. So my mom stays on the farm, and she fell really sick due to cancer, and she stopped breathing. We went, and the government ambulance is literally a walk away. And we went to them and said, listen, my mom's not breathing. They say, no, we can't do anything now. We're doing a change of shift. And my mom passed away a few minutes later.
Sure. We can't do anything now. We're having a change of shift. Life-threatening change of shift in that case. I'm so sorry. We hear that far too often. My name is Mondi Ashraf from New Brighton in Gqeberha. Monday, 13th of April, while sitting with a friend, we received a call from his sister that their mum is seriously ill. We both knew that she was a cancer patient at Livingston Hospital. We both rushed to this place only to hear that the mum is getting worse. My friend called the ambulance at 18:06, and the ambulance arrived at 18:37, so like 30 odd minutes later, right, with a police van as an escort. I'm not sure what your guest is talking about. Thanks. Yeah, but that's 30 minutes later, but that's your story. You know what I mean? We're talking across the board. Ashraf, I wonder what the excuse is in Mthatha. Ambulances are plenty. They never come even at night.
Ashraf, this is not in Cape Town. I was born in Gqeberha, right? I know that area very well. Now, at 1.5 million citizens, we need about 150 ambulances, and the ambulances are being ransacked or stolen or whatever, you know. I mean, really. So Joburg has got 41 ambulance. It don't solve the problem at all.
Well, yes. I think that's the other point, that, you know, one thing we're talking about holding government to account, but do you actually hold government account when there's so many people who are just crooked, who steal, who break parts of ambulances, who steal, who hijack ambulances, who actually hijack even hearses? Like, no matter what the situation is, how did we get to think that that is actually completely normal? Let's end with these.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I like SAfm because it's unique. And also I get to listen to Ashraf Garda. Here we go, right?
Well, you're very kind. Thank you for listening. Unique, and I'm glad you're listening to this show as well, right? Hello to everybody. I listen to SAfm because I enjoy and appreciate the opportunity to listening to conversations and to the input of various experts. Thanks to all involved, together we can become a rainbow nation. This is very possible. God is blessing us. From John in Scottsboro. There we are. Another one, I listen to SAfm to get my daily dose of information. It's an all-in-one package. I seriously am hooked on SAfm, as I'm always driving. So you're always hooked, or you're always driving, or is it both of them? Look, that's the show. I just want to end with what I said earlier on, that quote from Lincoln Marley, the CEO of Lesaka Technologies. It's an important one. He says, if you feel that service... No, let me say that again. If you feel that serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. Hold on to that thought. Let's do it again tomorrow with the National Pulse. Thanks for listening. Get the podcast up, but set your alarms now already for tomorrow, 3 p.m. Here's Greg with the news at 6.
Thank you again, Ashraf. DA doesn't back Speaker's removal and more bodies recovered after Nepal flooding. Good evening. The DA says they do not believe the threshold has been met for the removal of the Speaker of the National